Here we go. Let me tell you something. It's not just the news that's hot this week. It is absolutely on fire up here in the Northeast. I'm sure a lot of our folks that listen down south in the United States are like, hey, welcome to our world. Okay? But this is unbelievable. I mean, the heat here is unbelievable right now. We hit over 100. I think the great J-Dub would say that's just a Tuesday, Mooch, and that's fine. But we're not used to it up here, okay? This is like when you guys get 2 inches of snow. This is unbelievable. So listen, I got to say, we got outstanding news to cover, a phenomenal panel here, an absolutely phenomenal panel. Please, guys, hit that like button. Go ahead and tweet it out, repost it, let your neighbors know that we're live here in New York. And right above that fantastic description right there is the join button and the like button. Hit both those buttons, and it really helps the Mooch Maniac family grow bigger and bigger every week. That being said, let's get to this fantastic panel because we got a lot to talk about. And it is 4th of July weekend here in the States. So, it's kind of starting today. I think everybody's kind of taking Friday off if they can. And the drinks are already pouring. So I hope everyone's enjoying themselves and they have a great holiday weekend this weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your drinks, but please be safe. That being said, let's get to this fantastic panel. We'll start with the one and only DS. And let me tell you something. DS came here with his notes. He came here prepared, as he always does. The great DS is with us tonight. How you doing tonight, DS?
Oh, I'm doing great. There's so many people conflating what's happening on PC versus what's on console, and it's like that's like comparing the US to Nicaragua. Like, it's like one is complete. We'll get into it, but one is completely designed from the ground up to be digital. One has just come to the table, and it isn't good. And yeah. So let's get into it.
We're definitely going to get into it here. Shout out to Glinter real quick. I'll get these super chats here because these are fantastic. He says, all digital for PS6, whatever. He goes, but Sony should not stop discs for PS5, which has had disc-based console and fans with 6 years. That's BS. Glinter hasn't had it. And we have to give a quick shout out here to D. He says, Noof. That's boom, boom, kaboom to you, D. The man, the myth, the legend. He is here with us tonight. D, thank you for that super chat as well. The great Nib is with us tonight, everybody. And, Nib is from England. You guys know that. But you know what? I said, Nib, can we at least celebrate the 4th of July weekend and make it a 2.5, 3-hour podcast? He said, we'll see. He says, we'll see. So it all depends on Nib. Nib, how you doing tonight, buddy? Great to have you.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I wouldn't say too impressed with the state of gaming. Let's put it that way.
Well, we are definitely hitting some speed bumps here, Nib. That's for damn sure. I mean, listen, I can't argue with that at all. So he says, shout out to Zucker. He says, this show needs a physical release. Mooch, I'm with you, Zucker. It really does. Let your people talk to my people. Nib, great to have you here. We got some great special guests here. The great J-Dub City is with us tonight. And I saw Jay absolutely tearing up the airwaves the last 48 hours. So I said, Jay, listen, you're a busy guy. Guy works around the clock, doesn't stop. He's probably working on the 4th of July. I said, Jay, can you pull up real quick? He says, count me in, Mooch. I'll be there. Jay, great to have you tonight, buddy. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. It's a great Thursday evening. Debt Singer's here, so we can all jump and beat him up and.
Oh yeah, wow.
And
he's got
the latest topics.
He's got a shield with him, so be careful, Jay.
I don't know. I feel like me and Death Singer are going to be quite aligned tonight. I'm just warning you.
Well, that's why we've got a good group here. Listen, I tried to get some physical, I tried to get some digital guys, and then a little bit of in the middle. You know what I mean? So we'll see what's going on here.
We got Slow-Mo and Noof.
Well, let me say, I was just going to say, now the only wild card is who I'm about to introduce next, and that is the great Slow-Mo Backslap, who's back on the show. Slow-Mo, I had to reach out to the people that employ you, and I had to make sure that they understood just how valuable you are to this show. Slow-Mo, welcome to the show, buddy. I'm glad you can get Thursday night off. I know it's not easy for you. I know DPS is usually later than CrossFire, so it's not easy to get home this early. I appreciate it. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. And because of DPS, I will be here for a limited time, much like your physical game.
Oh, my God. Slow-Mo. Too soon.
I had to throw one in there. So.
You did. That's why the great Slow-Mo Backslap is with us tonight, guys. Shout out to Matua. He says, Xbox living rent-free in Pony's heads. We're going to get into Xbox. You're not out of the woods there yet, Matua. Let's go over to the great Boom Boom Kaboom. You know how hard it is to get Noof Nukem on this show? Noof is over three. It's a 3-hour time gap, so that doesn't help things. First of all, but then our schedules don't meet up. But Noof writes me about a week and change ago, and he goes, "Listen, Mooch, I told you I'd reach out to you. I'm free July 2nd." I said, "Consider it done." Noof, welcome back to the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
It is good to be here. Fantastic panel, and your chat is lit already. And man, it's what a coincidence that it's on July 2nd, and I get to join you on a CrossFire after months. And look at the topic.
I know.
I mean, I'm Mr. Jurassic Park himself.
You are.
Right?
You are. This was,
So this is a perfect one for me.
That's so great. Yeah. I got to tell you, Noof, I'm ecstatic that you're here. I would be ecstatic no matter what week you're here, but this one here really takes the cake. So you know what? Listen, let me start and put the guests on the hot seat for once here tonight, okay? Noof, let me put you on there. And by the way, we have Jez7780 and Wise joining us probably the second hour. Hopefully, Mr. Badbit can make it. Noof, let's start with this. So PlayStation is set to stop producing physical discs January 2028. The all-digital era has, in quotes, begun. Will Sony reverse course after the online protests and hate that they've seen? And what are your overall feelings on after this information came out?
I'm going to say no. I mean, the numbers don't lie, but we all certainly know that often the smallest groups of disgruntled people, speak the loudest, right? I represent a very small minority of those gamers in turn. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest collector in the world. I mean, over the years, you know me, Mooch, and Newfonomics has certainly dwindled into my collection.
You've taken the class. You've had to take the class a couple of times there, Noof. But I know that you are a professor now. Please, yes.
But this whole thing really shoots down Newfonomics. Newfonomics basically ends with the death of physical media, essentially.
That's right.
I don't think they're going to walk this one back. I mean, anything is possible. Obviously, look, I don't think the next, and I'm going to look at Xbox too. If anybody thinks the next gen of consoles is coming with a disk drive built in, you're kidding yourself. That's not happening. It's not happening for Xbox either. Right? They just haven't really announced it, and they haven't announced the end of their discs. But if Sony puts the stamp down, if Sony really puts the stamp down and carries it forward, I can totally see Microsoft eventually doing the same thing. It's this industry lately has been one of it's action and reaction, and they kind of seem to wait for each other to make a move and then kind of see how the audience gauges it, and then they kind of go from there. I don't see them rolling this back in the least. I mean, like I said, about 80% of the industry is basically digital at this point. But I guess that's the part that astonishes me, because I was saying online earlier, if you look at it, and I bet you every guy in this room has a console, or probably even a current gen console, that still has a disk drive. So why are the numbers so skewed? Because I'll tell you how I run things. I buy the games that I really want on a disc. Okay, so like when it's PlayStation, I got God of War, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, all the big titles from Sony. I pretty much have a physical copy of them. Sometimes the collector's edition. I get Death Stranding 2, the list goes on. And if it's a game that I'm riding the fence on, I'll still pick it up as well, physical, but it's usually on a sale. And if it's a game that's like, I'm in the store messing around, like most of the digital games I have on my PlayStation right now are actually from the PlayStation Plus collection. So it was kind of like a no-brainer. You're going to download them anyway, right? Just have them there and play them when you want. So that's kind of where I am on the spectrum. I'm the anomaly. I don't do everything purely physical, but I would say overall my collection between Xbox and PlayStation in general is probably close to that number. It's probably like about a 60% digital and 40 physical, because I buy the games. Like lately I bought 007 for Xbox physical. Getting Halo campaign physical. I'm getting Gears physical. I'm getting Tomb Raider physical. I've got all that shit pre-ordered already, physical editions. I'm going to get Wolverine on disc. So look, all I can say is I don't think they're walking this one back, Mooch. It's a tough decision, but I mean, obviously, the thing is, the thing that pisses me off the most is I don't think these guys are doing this out of convenience for the consumer. I think they're doing it so they can have complete control over their ecosystem and their store. And we just saw how Sony just got rid of a bunch of movies, and they're going to get rid of a bunch of other stuff. And that's where I think we're ultimately heading, is we're heading either into a cloud era eventually, or that's where they're pushing us. They're pushing us away, so we have no say and control over the content that we purchase. And I think that's bullshit, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so Noof, you really kind of set the stage there. Slow-mo, I want to go to you on this because you are the wild card for me. I don't know where you stand on this. I have a hunch, but I'm not going to go ahead and guess at all. Slow-mo, Noof made some good points. This is definitely about control. I don't think that's really a debate on this topic. I think the debate starts to open up with a lot of media has now all gone this way. You know, whether you're talking about Apple, everything that you buy on Apple, if they want to just discontinue something, they don't want to carry. Look at Apple. Apple got into a fight with Epic, and they kicked Fortnite off their phone. I mean, I understand what Noof's saying in control. So these types of things exist, Slow-mo. But where are you on this subject? And I'm going to wait. I'm going to give my opinion at the end here. But Slow-mo, where are you on this? You're seeing people protest, asking for reversal here. How are things going to pan out, and how do you feel about it?
I mean, look, I have been a digital-only gamer since like about 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
I think the last physical game that I really bought may have been the Division 1. And you could think about how long ago that's been. It's been about a decade or maybe a little bit more than that, right?
Right.
But I understand people's frustration and people's anger about this. Although I'm not a physical gamer, I completely understand people who are upset about this. That said, only roughly 15% of PlayStation 5's games are sold physically. So as they seeing those numbers, and it used to be a higher percentage physical over the years, but slowly it's been skewing in this direction.
Yeah.
Sony is, and maybe someone could correct me, but at least I thought I heard this, that Sony is the supplier of disc for gaming, not just for themselves, but also for Xbox, right? So if you're not seeing the investment that you're putting in being worth it, and you're a corporation, they're going to see how, and everyone's been showing the examples of it. A game like God of War Ragnarok, which is a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years old now. That game physically, if you wanted to go buy it off of Amazon, go into GameStop, you're buying it for $20, $30.
That's right.
But on their store, it's still $70 full price, like it came out yesterday.
Yep.
They are absolutely taking full advantage of the fact that the only way to buy digital on a PlayStation 5 is from them, only from PSN.
That's right.
And that it may be the one thing that before this all comes into play in 2028, 2 years from now, that may change, because there's class action lawsuits, and essentially there probably will be some regulators in some regions, because this is, when you're a global brand, you got to deal with global issues. You got to deal with global governments and saying what you can and cannot do when you offer products in their country. Somebody's going to be like, yeah, you can't do this here. So more than likely, you're going to start seeing maybe Amazon offering people digital keys, kind of like how on PC you got Green Man Gaming, you got CD keys.
That's right.
You want to go buy 007 First Light, you don't have to do it through Steam or through Epic Game Store or whoever. You can go to Green Man Gaming and get it for a little bit of a discount, but still like that kind of thing is going to happen. But I need people to understand the reality of this. The reality is that it's over.
Yeah.
Physical media is over. The first sign of it should have been when they offer a digital version of the PlayStation 5. That was the first sign. They gave you, a chance to, hey, look, you could go digital if you want to. And then they completely remodeled the PlayStation 5 without, the default is without the a Blu-ray drive.
That's right.
That was, and so then if you wanted that, you got to pay more money to even get it. All of this was signs of what was coming. And so guaranteed, I tweeted this out when I first saw it, and I'm just to me, it was just yep, that's the confirmation. In 2028 is likely when the PlayStation 6 comes out. And in 2028, it will be a digital only console.
Yep.
And there's no way around it. They're not changing. I'm going to boycott. We hear this stuff all the time, and I get it. And I'm not saying people don't boycott. It's your money. If you don't feel like giving PlayStation money, based on how they're treating you as a gamer,
that's right.
You give them the double middle finger salute, and you stop giving them money. I'm not. I'm gonna support you completely. Am I with you? No, because like I said, I've been fully digital this whole entire time, and like I said, I saw where this was going, but I just kind of want people to understand that, like, when they kind of make these kind of decisions and they make that announcement of this decision 2 years in advance, it's already a wrap, man.
Yeah.
Like the only changes that there may be is that you might be able to get Amazon's or Newegg or whatever other digital storefronts to start getting digital keys. There's just no way Sony's going to be able to lock the entire PlayStation storefront down on keys like that, basically cutting off any other retailer.
Right.
And then now they're going to be doing exactly what they're doing right now with games that are years old, but they're still charging full price for them like that. Like, that's going to change. But as far as you getting physical discs, it's unfortunate because I know there's so many people who love to be able to have that case in their hand. Like, even though GTA 6 isn't going to give you an actual physical game, people were still, like, I talked to Forte. Forte had people waiting outside his GameStop, like, yeah, I'm trying to buy a case. He's just like, bro, it's a case.
It's a case.
You trying to pre-order a case? And they like, yeah. I'm just like, all right, give me your money then.
Yeah.
But, people going to do what they want
Yes.
to do, but you're not going to even get that, unfortunately. And it's just the way things are pushing. And like, gaming is, in a way, it sucks. This is a lack of options out here. But what I do agree with, that people need to push for secondary markets.
Yes.
Need to push for more choice, because more choice means they can't screw us over.
Slow-mo, I don't know if anyone could have said it better. That was really, I'm kind of right there with you, running parallel. Again, I'm going to wait till the end, but Slow-mo, well said. I got to say here, were you done, Slow-mo? I apologize.
Yeah, I'm done.
No, that's fine. So let me get J-Dub in here, and then I want to get Nib. I know Nib and DS have kind of their notes, and they're going to go off on a subject, which I'm very interested to hear. But Jay, where are you? You've been talking behind the scenes. We've gone through generations where we had cassette decks, and then we had VHS, and then we had CDs, and then we had Blu-rays, and now we're on everything digital. Where are you on this? I mean, we've kind of seen the subtraction of physical hardware and physical media disappearing decade after decade. How'd you take this information?
So we see the numbers. We see the numbers from the European markets, the American markets. We see the numbers. They give us the split pretty much every month. What's digital versus physical? We see it. We knew this eventually. This day would come. I think it's more so about the reaction to it. I've been digital for quite a long time. Again, it's because the ease of use. I share play with my son. And so, we share our library and stuff like that. I buy games, and he gets access to it. I see that, but I do know there are some collectors and stuff like that. People love physical for that reason. Um, I don't know. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not surprised. I can honestly tell you, I'm not surprised about the reaction we're getting. That's just the day and age we live
Right.
in. It's everything is just we kind of live off of a shock and awe type weekly environment. That's just what it is. And again, I for the 10% of the people who do the physical media, and that's like their solely thing, that sucks for them. I feel for them. I think Sony's going to stop doing it. I believe they said in 2028. So I think this generation, as long as you have a PS5 and you're physical, you're good. But next generation, that's stopping. So I think it's from that standpoint. But it's like, how did we not see this coming? I mean, this generation, both platform holders launched with a digital only version. Like, how did we not know this is where it was coming? That's just like.
Yeah, and
I don't
Jay,
know. I mean,
Jay,
can we just force these companies to keep making obsolete items just for our feel good, for the majority feel good? I don't know. But I can tell you this: when you look at how many people subscribe to Netflix and Hulu and all these other streaming apps to get their TV media and their movie media,
Yeah.
it's way more than it is physical. And you when you look at the retailers, they mostly Best Buy and stuff like that, they really stopped selling physical. Gaming is a little bit different, but I mean, Nintendo started with the key cards, right?
Yep.
They don't even the games are not even on there, and even majority of the games, the full game is not even on the disc, right? It's we know that.
Right.
That's been the case since last generation. Um, I get both sides of the story, but again, I think it's personally me. I think it's a nothing burger. The numbers show 85%, maybe even up to 90. Most cases, people are digital.
Mhm.
GT Rockstar just launched Grand Theft Auto with no option for physical at all, and they sold. The reports are saying upwards of over 40 million copies of that game overnight or something like that. Like, so where were all the physical guys there? I mean, where was the outrage on that? I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
I
Nobody.
don't know.
Nobody.
They're not real figures, dude.
They're not.
And
Listen,
Nintendo
No,
is
but
Nib,
let's just say right, it's half of that. Let's throw numbers
Also,
out
just
there,
to clarify
Right.
on Nintendo, game cartridge costs 64 gigabit is $16, and the cost to print, a disc is like what, between 50 cents and $350. So it's a big difference between cartridge costs and disc printing.
that's their problem. I'm not
I'm just
debating what
saying the
cost
context is not the same with
But-
discs.
No, it's true.
But anyway.
Again, we got 3 people in the console space right now, and they all support digital, and more and more people are just digital compared to the physical. I just don't know at what point, if it's not just generation, if they don't end it like in the beginning of next generation, right? Do we just expect them to go to the generation after that? After that, even do we wait for it to get down to 1%?
Let me.
We wait till
Jay, you make a good.
Anyway.
No, Jay, you make a great point. And Nib, I'll give you the microphone here. I do want to make a
Yep.
point. So I watched the video. Nib, you always use great references when you're in your speech here. But and shout out to Mystic Ryan. I had watched his reaction video, and he said something that I believed in my heart of hearts as well. And I'm paraphrasing, so go over and check out Mystic Ryan's video. He got tremendous views on it. I think we're all affected in a certain way. It is hard to see physical come to an end. The one thing that he said that was interesting, Nib, before I want to get your opinion on this, was he said something to the effect of, I really thought, and I felt the same way, I really felt that the PS7, the next generation, not PS6, but the generation after, was going to go all digital. He's like, I was kind of preparing myself, or he's like, that's where my mental thought was, that was where it was going. This is a bit of a surprise that they're doing this, and it may even be before the actual PS6 comes out, depending on when it comes out, whether it be late 27 or in 28. But my point being is that, Nib, people, Nib, we even talked about it on this show way before this, months ago, when we were like, oh, that'll be 2 generations from now. Like, everyone was okay with it. My point is the time was coming. The sand in the hourglass was running out. Everyone was like, oh, PS7, I could see that. Now, I'm not talking about Mystic Ryan either. I'm talking about people that we've had on the show, people in the chat. They're like, oh, yeah. Now, that's kicking it down the road. But regardless of whether it was going to be 7 years from now or it's 2 years from now, the point of the matter was digital was going to overtake physical at some point. Nib, would you at least agree with that point?
So, yes, maybe, but not only do the numbers not support it currently,
Okay.
there has been a lot of platform propaganda and skewing of data to basically allow them to come to this point. The numbers that people are, even on this panel, are regurgitating are so wildly out of context.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead. Go ahead. I've read what you put out.
What numbers are out of context?
Yeah, so I'll explain, right? So the fiscal year digital software number is 78%, right? So the 85% was 1 quarter. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher. Overall fiscal year, 78%. But here's the thing, right? That 78% includes countless digital-only releases, countless PSN shovelware, back catalog games that only release digitally, and from Square and all sorts of re-releases and things like that, and remasters and whatever else. It's massively heavily skewed, right? I'm not saying that digital is not obviously increasing in popularity. And as I've said plenty of times, live service multi-platform games, a lot of the big sellers, your FIFAs, your NBA 2K, your Call of Duty, etc., they do typically have very high digital splits, and it makes sense, right? I'll get onto it in a minute, but even PlayStation's own digital splits, which we actually know, we have quite an exhaustive data for their different physical and digital splits, as we do from GSD, Sakana, etc. But the in terms of the live service games, they're the ones that tend to have the highest digital splits, because obviously if you're going to be playing something every day, say multiplayer game, you're going to load up every day or for weeks or months on end, you do not want to be constantly swapping discs.
Right.
So it makes sense, right? On the physical side of things, they've really done a number to mask the true split and value of single player games. But more than that, also in revenue terms, because it's really interesting. PlayStation's reporting, and I always thought it was a bit odd. I never knew why they did this, but obviously it makes sense now, because they've been laying the foundation for them to push this narrative for a long time, on the basis that, it's just too diminished now. But really the truth is it's all about money, greed, and control, right? But for example, in their financial reporting, when it comes to digital sales, and honestly, you can search it right now, huge analysts, it's literally written in the small print of their actual financial reports themselves. Digital sales include full third-party software figures, right? So if you buy a Call of Duty or a FIFA or EA Sports or whatever it's called now, from digitally, the entire $70 is counted in the revenue, right? Not their royalty figure, the entire $70. That's why I compare Xbox, Steam, and PlayStation, because they all have gross revenue figures, but Nintendo doesn't. Nintendo counts royalty figures, right? But on the physical side, read their small print, they only count the royalty percentage on physical sales from third party. So isn't that really interesting? On the physical side, you only count your 15% royalty, because on physical, the royalty is less. It's one of the reasons they want to push people to physical, because they get that 30% cut. It's a much bigger cut, in addition to having no other option but PSN. So obviously they can control prices. Unlike with physical, you can go to multiple different stores, get multiple different deals. So they not only get a significantly higher licensing fee from every game sold on digital, but they also have far more control, right? But in their financial reporting, they only count the royalty on physical and they count the full sale on digital. So they are even making things lopsided in the revenue side of the equation, right? It's not really a fair and balanced accounting, right? It makes digital look far bigger than it actually is relative to physical. Now, I want to go through some of the physical splits for PlayStation games, right? Because we actually have them. We have the data. Sackboy, 77% physical. Rift Apart, 76% physical. This is from PlayStation themselves, by the way, right? This is literally from the Insomniac leaks. Ghost of Tsushima Direct Cut, 71% physical. Demon Souls, 70%. Miles Morales, 66%. Spider-Man, 66%. Returnal, 61%. Last of Us 2, 61%. Ghost of Tsushima, 51%. MLB The Show, 21%, 39%. So the live service game has more digital. The single-player games all have more physical in cases substantially. Uncharted 4 is 83% physical based on PlayStation's own data, right? And in addition to that, we have other data.
Any recent numbers?
Yeah, so
games
so GSD data more recent, right? GSD splits more recent. God of War Ragnarok, 76% physical. Astrobot, end of 2024, 60% physical. Spider-Man 2, 54% physical. Horizon Forbidden West, 51% physical. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, 63% physical.
Where the majority of their games are physical, over digital?
Yeah, so this is a combination of PlayStation's own data, their own financial data, which I've shared on my X, and GSD splits across Europe, right? So the first, like whatever 13 games I listed was directly
So
from PlayStation.
all of this is the splits for Europe alone.
Is this Europe or is this?
The last several games I listed was Europe alone. The 13 before was across the world.
Worldwide,
right?
okay.
So, yeah. So, and by the way, historically, Europe has a higher PC split, as in a digital split, than even the United States, right? So Hogwarts Legacy, 44% physical. Jedi Survivor, 40% physical. Assassin's Creed Mirage, 49% physical. The point is, with single-player games, again, I'm talking outside of live service. I understand that live service makes up the lion's share of revenue, and obviously casual gamers, they love live games. But on the tentpole single-player side, which still constitutes a massive portion of the market, actually physical is still a massive portion of the market. And in fact, with first-party games in particular, it's by far the lion's share of the market. So this whole it's a conflation of two different styles of games and conflating third-party with first-party. Now, when you look at the data I've given you, right, obviously there's going to be a huge number of people who are outraged and pissed off because they are the people buying physical games. I'm primarily a physical game purchaser, right? So when I hear like, oh, it's dying, it's not. Literally, the data shows that there is still significant physical splits. We're talking tens and tens of millions.
I agree.
And again, I understand.
I agree.
Yeah.
Nib, let me
and
ask
I
you
understand people then go to revenue, but like I said, the revenue report even for PlayStation is so misleading and skewed because it counts full sales for digital and royalties for physical. That's so wrong.
Nib, my question,
and then I was going to say,
my question for you,
Capcom, right?
Yeah.
Capcom themselves admitted 86% of their revenue is from back catalog old games that are digital only, right? Their data also includes digital only platforms like PC and mobile, which obviously is going to skew things heavily in favor of digital.
Is that really a skew? It's not necessarily a skew when it's raw data. That's the truth.
No, but the thing is, if you release,
if 50% of their revenue comes from PC, the fact that PC doesn't have any physical games doesn't mean it's skewed. It's literally, that's what it is. It's 50%.
No, but what I'm saying is it does skew the demand of physical because you can only truly gauge the demand of physical with games that have a physical and digital release. Obviously, if someone has no option to buy a physical, then 100% of those sales are going to be digital. That's immaterial. If you're trying to gauge how many people are still interested when there's a viable physical option, you have to look at games.
Okay,
so why would a developer or publisher who is releasing a game on a console that has the option for a physical release, and let's say your data is accurate and there's a significant number of people who are, or the majority of the people that are going to buy their game are going to buy it physical, why would you not want to do that?
Right. I was just going to say that.
If
your numbers are right, if your numbers are right,
coming out on console,
right?
Don't have
because publishers and platforms save money by not doing physical. It all literally boils down to money. PlayStation, they get less of a licensing fee on physical, as well as distribution, manufacturing, and all the other costs. They don't pass those the cost savings of digital onto consumers.
No,
right? They just make much higher margins.
What I'm saying is
likewise,
that if someone's a physical gamer, there's no guarantee that they're going to buy it digital if you don't give a actual physical option. There's no guarantee. If someone's out there like, I only want to play games physically, right?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that if you only do a digital release, they're still going to buy your game that they were interested in. So you're taking
of course not. Of course not. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. But obviously on PC, this has become widely adopted. But on PC, it's a very, very different dynamic to on console because it's not a walled garden. On PC, you have multiple different stores that sell codes, licenses, etc. You have a completely different refund system. You have much more flexibility and options. So they have, like Def Singer said earlier, PC has actually been designed around this digital only kind of, where it doesn't.
Nip, I think that's where console is going to evolve to. Because I don't think Sony's going back on this, but it's 2
So
years.
I don't think so. I think what the
Okay.
plan is, because obviously these AI shortages and everything else, I think what they're trying to do, and obviously they have very limited competition, I think what they're trying to do is adopt the Apple business model, which is when you can no longer sell something to the mass market, you squeeze as hard as you can the enthusiasts, right? You make up the margins that you lose on the masses from a smaller and smaller base of consumers who are more devoted, and you get more margins from them. I think that is the direction they are trying to go towards because of macroeconomics right now. And I think that will bite them on the ass. And I think they are on being short-sighted, greedy, and misreading how things will pan out for them.
Well, I mean, 1000%. That's how they want it to play out. But if they are forced to actually open things up, like that's going to be out of their control. If regulators say no, you can't operate like that in this market, you're going to have to allow other retailers that have digital keys to your games. They got no choice but to acquiesce.
No,
to that.
that's obviously if legal cases go through and force them, that's different. But how long is litigation going to take? Is it even going to pan out? Like, these are kind of question marks, right? That is not how they are planning things. Maybe governments and institutions and regulators and stuff can force their hand, but it's not a guarantee. Like, we don't know that could happen. But again, I'm just saying, like, the data does not support the death of physical. And they are doing very, very sneaky kind of reportage and let's just say marketing and PR, just like Xbox, to kind of push this notion that physical is far more dwindled than it actually is. And I do find it hilarious that Xbox has significantly higher digital splits than PlayStation. They beat even Xbox to the punch. That's the greed of PlayStation, right?
They actually did not beat. They didn't really beat them to the punch, though.
I know Xbox do digital codes and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they did digital codes, and most of their games that came out, if not all their games,
before
generation were all less than what was it, 100, whatever it was. There was no way that the Xbox wants this to happen. Believe me, as much as Sony
but you
does.
could, like Forza Horizon 6, if you buy it, even though you have to download the game, even if you have the disc, you can still sell, share, resell, all of that stuff, right? It's still a physical copy of the game.
Right.
They haven't actually got rid of physical copies yet. And this is the move towards getting rid of physical altogether.
So DS.
Also, to reinforce... go on.
No, hey, Mooch, someone in chat said my mic needs to go up, but my mic is, it's not, I'm not trying.
I got you at 101 on Discord. I will move you to 120. See if that's better. Okay. You sound good to me, Slow-Mo, but that's fine. I just put Slow-Mo up 20%. He was already at 100, but yeah.
All right,
cool. I just wanted to make sure.
No, you got it.
To Nib's point, right? They want to, because if you remember, Sony Group CFO Lin Tao announced a strategy to offset soaring RAM memory component costs by, and I quote, monetizing the installed base rather than doing other things. So generating higher revenue per user through digital game sales, add-ons, and PlayStation Plus. So what is the best way to monetize user base? Make sure they can only buy a game through your store, so you get the maximum amount of money. Now you are fully monetizing your user base, because you can't go out and buy it for $20 from a Walmart anymore. No, you have to spend the $70 straight out of the PSN store, and they will take their percentage of that, and they'll be like, thank you very much, and they will fully monetize you. Then also, it's going full digital takes away options from consumers. That's what essentially you're doing, because some people will be like, well, I could trade this game in, I could buy this one, which a lot of people do. It's like, oh, this game is pre-owned, is like 40 or whatever, cool, I'll go play it and whatever. So you take away all of that, but then you are locking everything to your store. But then, as recently pointed out this year with Colin Moriarty, your security is still not up to snuff. Because what happened to Colin, like, that's basic shit.
That's right.
And so your store is not up to stuff, so you're expecting everyone just to solely operate on your store. The security's still in good. So that's an issue in of itself. Then locking
And you could
digital
just shut
is-
down the service on games and stuff.
Yes,
It's just like
you can, and in their EULA, they specifically have it said you will buy a license if they choose to, they could deny you access to your game, and there is fuck all you can do about it because you signed up to that agreement when you signed up to PSN. They got you hook, line, and sinker by the balls, and if they choose to at any time in the future, for whatever reason, they're like, I dislike this game.
also imagine you got rage baited into getting your account banned. Boom, your entire library
Your
gone.
entire library's gone, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no backup. There's no failsafe. There's no plan B. You're just done. Good luck. Go build a new library. And so this is a lot of issues I see building up where it's like, yes, digital on PC, but there's backup options. There's plan B. There's plan C. There's plan D. There's a bunch of ways out. There's ways in between. Everything's open. You could dive in and out. PlayStation is like, none of that. Nope. There's just plan A. And if you don't agree with plan A, fuck yourself.
Well,
And
I mean, don't get me
they
wrong.
can
A lot.
do
I would say.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Wise.
Yeah,
I do want to say, I do think that, I just want to say, DS, the only asterisk I would say is I don't think what you said was wrong. I think all of those things, but right now, those are all genuine possibilities that they could do. That's you're fearing the worst.
Do you trust PlayStation on that? I just want to because
no,
like
Nib,
this idea that they're
hold on, Nib.
that this charitable
Okay,
thing,
Nib,
they're going to try and squeeze the max they can, dude.
Nib, do you own an Apple iPhone, Nib?
No, I'm on Samsung.
You're on Samsung. Do you have anything Apple at all?
I do. I've got my MacBook Pro, which is now £800 more expensive.
It is, right? So what happens when Apple? What happens when Apple decides to take things away from you, Nib? Are you going to then? What are you going to do?
No, but the difference is PlayStation and Xbox, or well, actually more PlayStation, they do have a history of cutting off services.
So does Apple.
I've actually never had any service cut.
So does
from
Apple.
That I've used.
Apple took Fortnite off their phones.
I've never
Apple took Fortnite off their phones and devices.
What do you mean?
Apple took Fortnite off their phones and devices for a while they were in a fight with Epic.
Yeah, because of the legal case, right? And now it's
it wasn't a legal case; it was a spite. It was damn spite.
Yeah.
So my point being, what I'm saying to you is what we're saying. These are things that can happen, and I'm not disagreeing with any of those things. But it is you're going to the farthest extent of all the things that they could do. A lot of times you will.
I don't think so. I think we're going on what is very reasonable.
They can just take a game away.
Because remember,
they can just take a game
all
away
these
from
things
you.
you've said they could have implemented before announcing this, right? There is a reason they've announced this before doing those things. They could have tried and padded it and made it easier and less of a PR nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to add these things. You're going to have more store options. You're going to have more code options. You're going to have a better refund system and so on. They didn't. And that is very, very calculated. It's very intentional. Because what they want to see is what's the reaction here? How much can we press them? If we don't get much of a reaction, happy days. We can screw the fuck out of these people.
Okay, so
right?
Nib, this is one of the biggest reactions. This is one of the biggest reactions we've seen in the longest time. I don't think we've seen anything this big since the whole reversal of the Xbox DRM and the Kinect out of the box. So, but here's the thing. This is one of the greatest protests we've seen. And I've asked the panel and even people that are in the know that are leading a lot of them, they're like, I don't think Sony's going to reverse course. So what is the end game, Nib?
As in, well, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I have to wait and see. I'm doing my part.
Well, you guys are. Well, no, wait, Nib. You are saying you're claiming all these things that are going to happen. What I'm saying to you is, what's the end game? No one's going to buy PlayStation anymore.
I would just say it would be extremely foolish for them to just completely ignore all of this.
I agree.
Because right now, at the level of condemnation, of memery, mockery, hate, vitriol on every single, like literally go onto social media now. If you have a gaming algorithm, every single fucking video on TikTok, Instagram, every post, they've actually been AWOL on social media since they made that post. But they're the butt of everyone's joke, right? I don't think they can just walk this one off. Like this is kind of almost a bit Xbox One like in the amount of the entire gaming community that is behind and attacking this. And I get it with good reason, right? Because this is about ownership. It's a bit about culture. It's
It
about
is good. It
being
is,
able to
it
let-
is within good reason there. But the question that I ask you, and we talked about it on the show, you're really good at going back and taking a look at it. We said on the show in passing, because it wasn't the same topic, we were like, oh, when the PS7 or the generation after PS6, we were all like, oh, yeah. Oh, everybody on the show, everyone in the audience was like, oh, that'll probably be all digital. That'll probably be all digital. So what I'm saying to you is the fear you have today, people were not okay with, but they were acknowledging that was going to be the case for PS7. So what I'm saying to you is those fears don't diminish. They're the same fears.
I was personally not acknowledging that. What I assumed would, or what I thought might be more reasonable, is like Nintendo, they just charged more for physical, right? That would be the way they make up the margin difference.
Okay.
But getting rid of them altogether is much more diabolical because there's so many more inferences to this. And in addition to that, we're not really thinking about, like, there are a lot of people who can't actually afford gaming. And obviously in this economy, with the state of how things are and the cost, there is a massive contingent of people who, obviously, Sony is trying to squeeze them out and force you to buy games like new, but that they rely on the used market, right? I even sell games to buy new games that I wouldn't ordinarily have bought, right? I couldn't even do that. But some people trade in like their phone or their old devices or some fan or some other nonsense, their cutlery or Cupperware or whatever, to pay for a game at a trade-in store. And there is an entire economy and gaming system behind that, which allows millions to game who actually ordinarily couldn't necessarily afford it or afford to play all the games that they want to play. So more people are being squeezed out than even the data shows, right? Because the data is just people who have, bought through the regular channels. But hence I think, you're always going to get a contingent of people who are more angry about this because they're not even represented in the data.
I understand. So let me get Wise. Why don't you go, and then I want to hear DS, and then I'm going to get to the super chat. So Wise, go ahead.
Yeah, my question. Okay, first of all, physical media has always been kind of the sacred cow for gaming in the sense that anytime you look at it, they've been trying. This death of physical media has been going on for the longest time. Ever since they started pulling out the manual from the games and stuff like that, then they went to all this other stuff, and then they got rid of all the things on the inside, all the collector's pieces and stuff, and now is just a disc on a plastic copy. So, the death of physical gaming has been sort of calculated for the longest time now. And anytime they do it, anytime they draw the line in the sand, it's not going to be sort of received well by the mass audience. But my question is this: how much of it is also because, like all of these companies, because of the situation that they've sort of done to themselves, and some of the situations that we are in right now because of the tariffs and all the economy and everything going on, how much of this was, okay, we got to do this right now because we've got to find some sort of cost cutting? How much money is that a motivation for why they're doing it right this second? Is it because they're like, okay, this is just going to help us save money a little bit? Or like, what is
I think that, and also getting behind GTA, right? They like, this is our Trojan horse moment. GTA, they don't have it's just a digital code. It's still sold loads. Like, let's try and rally behind this and get out of it what we can. But again, I think they very much underestimated, the hate and vitriol they would get. And also because, like I said, with the data the figures that I read out, which by the way were from Sony themselves and GSD, which is a partner of Sony. Sony actually give GSD direct data. It's not estimates. We're not there yet. Especially with single-player tentpole games, which the enthusiasts buy, not the casuals, and it's mostly enthusiasts on socials and on podcasts, etc., right, and doing all this other stuff. Those people are mostly buying these single-player games, and unfortunately for PlayStation, they still have a huge volume of physical sales for those types of games. So, conflating it with the live service annualized stuff is just disingenuous, really.
But wouldn't they be more profitable making it still physical? Because don't they own some percentage of all Blu-rays being pressed across the world?
No, because the margin, so they might get like 25 cents from that, right? Or like 15 cents. So Sony don't own it. They own it with a conglomerate of different companies. So their split is actually even lower than that. But so the way it works out, if they sell a physical copy, even a third-party physical game, they get a 15% licensing fee from publisher, whereas on a digital, they get a 30% licensing fee. In terms of first-party game sales, they sell themselves. They have no licensing costs at all on the physical side, but they have to pay a 30% fee to the retailer, whereas on the digital side, they get to keep all the money, no 30% cut at all. So really, we should have been getting way cheaper digital games ages ago.
Yes.
But the gaming being gaming and greedy as they fucking always have been, they just literally just ended up making way more profit instead of passing any cost savings on to consumers. And that's what they'll continue to do going forward. They will always try and extract the maximum they can.
So where was the out real quick? So Nib, and shout out to Eric, the producer. He's been asking me to ask this real quick, just to throw this out there for Eric. Nib, where was all of this anger for GTA 6? Where was the Rockstar backlash?
Yeah, so I think because GTA is that one unicorn, right? 250 million plus sales. And obviously they had this thing about like spoilers and everything. It's like, I think people were just about willing to give it a pass. I was critical of it, but it's not going to stop me from buying it, right? This is something much bigger. It's not just one unicorn title. It's all physical games. So it's a big jump to go from just one game.
I agree with you. It's not the same, but that's a big unicorn, by the way.
Also,
just a
Mooch,
massive unicorn. Yeah.
Those in the chat were like, piracy was your plan B and whatnot. And the funny thing is, if all the corporations turn on you, that will be probably the premier way to actually own your games, because they can't take it from you. And they can't forbid you from playing it. So it's the ultimate form of ownership, because you actually own your full digital games, regardless of how you feel about it. It is actually fundamentally a great way to preserve your own games, because no one then can tell you, oh, by the way, we're shutting down Steam, so all your games are gone. That's fine. I still got all my games right here. I don't need to worry about that. Close your store down. Bye-bye. And that's the end of it. And that is perfectly valid if that is your thing. But it's like, GOG exists, DRM-free, you control all the games. Like, if GOG ever closes, I have like 50, 60 games on GOG.
Right.
If that ever closes, guess what? I can play every single one of those games, because they give you an offline launcher, so you don't have to worry about a launcher, and they give you all the files to the game, they give you all the executables and everything, so you just put them away on the side, and you will never ever have to worry about your library disappearing. That's why I love buying off GOG, because it's like, I actually own this digital game, and that is in the very rare case that you could actually own your own digital games, because everything is a license otherwise.
But can we look at this doomsday scenario that like one day my games are not like, I don't know. I just look at it as a doomsday type scenario.
It's not.
I think the thing for me,
I think most of us have been, well, at least myself, have been digital for over a decade.
Yeah.
Haven't lost anything, and honestly, I play the game, I beat him, and most of the time I never go back to him. But again, it is just me. It's just my opinion. I am not the masses, so I get everyone's opinion. But again, buy a game, download it, play it, beat it, have fun with it, and then I'm done, and then I'll move on to the next thing, and it'll be the same thing for GTA 6 and the other games. One game that I bought last generation, way back in the day, if Drawn to Death one day, right? David Jaffe's last game. If that game become unplayable to me in the future, do I care? I don't. Just be honest, I don't.
I was going to say, I think the thing for me that also gets it, I've been on this show and spoken about, I've mocked Xbox fanboys, right, for when they say PlayStation is struggling. But this is the irony of it, right? They can waste so much money on Bungie, live service fucking cancellations and flops and all this other shit. We're talking hundreds of millions, billions, right? That I think the write-off on Bungie was, 800 million, right? They can waste all this money on your Concords, like, I think 7 or 8 different cancellations on fucking Last of Us Factions 2 they worked on for God knows how long. And it was most of the studio at one point. And then still, they have extremely high profit operating income, and their margin is only increasing, right? They're at what, like 12.5%. I think if it wasn't for the Bungie write-off, it would have been even higher. But every year, every fiscal year, that margin is going up. They have made more profit this generation than every single PlayStation generation combined. So as much as like, yeah, they're seeking margins or whatever, at a point you have to be like, this is too much. This is too greedy. You're already making more money than ever before. You've already devastated the competition, but still like you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing ever more. And even for me, Commander General Pony, right, at a point I have to be like, sorry, I don't want to support this. Like, this isn't the type
that's
of
the
company.
thing, and I applaud you, but Nib, you have to understand when you say that you're talking about a major corporation here, and you say that with greed. I through my lifetime, I've seen Apple go from just near out of business to back in business to the top, one of the top, if top 3 companies in the world. These companies don't stop because they hit trillionaire status. They keep going and they keep going. So when you're like, well, they've reached a point here. We've also spent the last 4 or 5 weeks talking about how expensive games are. And when you do make a bad choice, right? These things, I'm just saying to you, like, these companies don't stop wanting to make money. They continue to grow. Apple hit billion and then they hit trillion. Like, they didn't hit billion and go, we did it. We did it. Everybody take next month off. Like, they keep going. So when you're like, they don't want to, it's a machine.
Yeah, of course.
It's a machine. So they just keep, right, they have to. They keep doing that. So we were here weeks ago saying gaming's getting expensive, blah, blah, blah. There's developers that are independent developers saying it's hard to make it, this and that. And then we turn around and people put the price up and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not right. I believe me, I'm the consumer too. I hear you. I bought a physical attachment for my PS5 Pro. For both of them, like, I have no problem with physical. I want them to keep physical forever. Again, I'm coming from the era of tape deck. Okay, I hear you. Yeah. But the point of the matter is, when you're like, I'm angry, what I say to you is, but the key thing here at the end of the day is, let's say they reverse it. And it's like, yes, we won, right? Great, I'm there with you. It will eventually go all digital. You won temporary. You won. You know what they say? You won the battle, but you're going to lose the war.
That's what. But what I would say is, if it comes to the time where those splits that I gave you aren't those splits anymore, and it's like 5-10% or whatever, fine. Right. At that point, at the end of the day, I have to be fair as well, right? Like, you know, I like that game. What was it, High Guard, that nobody liked? I always said to you, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
I'm going by the data and the public opinion, right? At the end of the day, I have to be balanced. So if that day comes, I will say, okay, fair enough. It's like when they increased the prices of all the hardware, right? Xbox, Nintendo. Did I fucking clown them? Did I go crazy? No. I said at the end of the day, I understand this is the reality of the macroeconomics right now because of AI shortages. I'm not expecting them to take heavy losses on hardware at this current stage of that just wouldn't be feasible. But this is not that.
I understand.
This is not, they're not making losses, they're making profit.
But can I ask you a question?
They're still selling good high portions of physical games. PlayStation first party is more physical, right? Than digital. But this is just control, greed, and margins.
Would you agree, Nib, or disagree that within the next 7 years, let's say a console's typical life cycle, in the next 7 years, that those numbers that you feel they're being greedy now would change or sway?
No, I actually think there could be... No, I don't think they'll change that much, because I think because of the price of hardware and the economy, the state of the economy, potentially we have another recession or depression coming, right?
It's a lot. It's a lot of bad things that are just coming down the pipe.
I think people are going to be leaning on physical and resale and used games more than ever, I think.
Right. No,
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, Wise.
How big is the physical game community in other parts of the world? Because, like, you know, we always think about United States, and of course United States and Canada being the biggest market for gaming, but you've still got Europe, you got Japan, you got the Middle East, you got all of the other places. Do they really care about this, or is this a nothing burger?
Middle East, India, and places with like networking speeds that are a bit more unreliable and so on. And obviously in India, Bangladesh, my family is originally from Bangladesh, current goes out still, right? So those regions are actually far more physically inclined, because it's just more reliable in case things, shit hits the fan or whatever, you lose your network, etc.
Yeah, in the OA, and I don't want to go out of order because we have a lot of super chats. I'm going to go to the super chats right now, but I'll go just real quick because OA was asking when will it be okay to go all digital and why then? OA, that's what I'm asking Nib. Because Nib, the only thing I agree with everything you said. I really do agree with a lot of what you said. The only thing when you were like 7 years from now, I think we'll still be fine with physical. We're moving towards an era of AI. We're moving towards an era where these companies are showing robots that are going to be costing $30,000 that are supposedly going to be coming in your house and mowing your lawn, doing your dishes, and you're saying physical media is still going to be. My whole point is that's fine. If you felt right now that this is the wrong time, I agree with you. I'm 100% there. I just feel I think the point that the OA is asking in the chat and that I'm asking is it's inevitable. And if you want to kick the can,
any time is okay.
Right, exactly. No time is okay.
Any time is okay,
but
to go all physical. Although, despite the fact I think that they're not going to walk this back, no matter how much people complain. The only thing that really, as consumers, we do have a measure of control. And the measure of control that we have is
purchasing power, right? We do it or we don't buy it, right?
The denial of the revenue that you're counting on. So if it's really the significant numbers that Nib is talking about, and these people don't buy digital and won't buy digital, they will feel it. I mean, even more so the fact that if they're really trying to come out with a PlayStation 6 in 2028, with the way that the Rampocalypse is going, they're going to feel that just as much or probably more, honestly.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to be buying a console at $1,000. That's just unrealistic with the way that the economy is for the majority of these markets. That said, you vote with your wallet.
That's right.
If this is affecting you,
yes,
you know what to do.
Yes.
If it all this stuff is always about how it personally affects you. If you feel like this costs too much, you know how to handle that. You just don't pay for it.
The thing is,
and that will be what will hit them, because these companies, they never, all the talking, all the yelling, they came out with this. They expected it. They expected the backlash.
Yeah.
They're not oblivious to social media and how this stuff works. But all the talk in the world means absolutely nothing if it doesn't affect them in the wallet.
Right.
You can talk to you blue in the face, but if you still buying the game, so what? Shut up.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't mind them going digital, right? I don't mind them going all digital. But you need to do it correct. You need to give the consumer option A, B, C, and D. You can't just be option A. Option A or fuck off. No, you can't do that. And you need to make sure PSN is actually secure. Because if you are saying, here is my account with my entire library, and someone jacks that off your hands, you just lost 500 games and you cannot get them back. There is no recovery. That it's gone, right? So the thing is if you get accidentally banned, let's say you get accidentally banned for something and you try to get through customer service, which is kind of shit anyway, with PlayStation, and they also need to adjust their refund policy. You need a much better refund policy to manage it, and also you need a better family plan. It's like Steam came out and did the smart thing, which was throw 10 people on your family plan, 2 people on that plan can buy the game, and then everyone just shares the game.
What happens, DS, though, when Steam bans you?
I mean, they really ban you. I mean, you have to do some egregious shit to be banned.
You said banned. All right, so
relying on the I guess the integrity of Valve, which I mean,
but then
I don't think
even
you
if
should ever rely on the integrity.
Well,
of
no, but then let's say they ban your account, right? Well, I can go source my library elsewhere.
What? Where?
What do you mean?
You got to go buy them again? Like you just said.
That means you lost.
You lost your 500 games.
What are we doing here?
I don't get it. That's what I'm saying.
Source your library elsewhere. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean?
He means go to another store and buy build up your library over there.
Right.
No,
I mean, that's still money lost.
No, that's still money lost. But also, it's but you still have fallback options where you could sail the 7 seas to get your library back. You know what I mean? There's ways and means.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's fine. And don't get me wrong. Everybody has their own way. Like myself personally, I wouldn't do that. Like that's fine. I would have lost my 100 and something games or 200 and something games on Steam. You know, it's gone. Same way. The risk is still there. That's my point to Nib was, and it's not about Steam or PlayStation or Xbox. It's about digital content versus physical content, right? And we have gone to a digital storefront on everything. Apple. I mean, Tesla. People who have Teslas right now. What happens if your software starts to malfunction or you get like booted off? Like, what happens? Where do you go? Where? There's no Tesla second storage. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm just trying to say to you, like, everything has gone digital to a certain degree. Apple, Netflix. People were praising and claiming that Game Pass is the future. Do you remember that? All the people that are actually starting a lot of stuff.
That's why I don't like these inevitabilities.
Game Pass
People
was like, I don't need to buy anything.
Will definitely ditch
Game
physical,
Pass.
But they said we'll definitely Game Pass is the future. Definitely cloud is the future.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like these absolutes. We don't know that because if Astrobot 60% of its sales are physical and Spider-Man Miles Morales 66% of its sales are physical, and Spider-Man 2 57% of its sales are physical. We're not there yet at a point where we can say physical is dead. I understand on the live service stuff, fine. You can say that.
Yeah.
The tentpole live service. But again, I said, who's going to buy fucking Call of Duty if they plan to play it in multiplayer physical? Because then you literally have to, if you play anything else, you're constantly switching discs. It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and another part of this whole equation too that nobody's really bringing in. Now I know that are some discs out there that have very little content on them. They basically have a small update
just
file
a
or
license
license
code.
file.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I get that, but there still are, and I've noticed, especially with PlayStation more so than Xbox, there is still a lot of discs still that have a good amount of content on the disc itself. And we're in a day and age right now where memory itself is at a premium and costing a fortune. And like I'm also afraid that the developers will take will use less optimization techniques, and we're going to need bigger hard drives because I'm really getting tired of constantly deleting and reinstalling shit on these consoles that basically don't even have a terabyte of friggin' space. So that in itself is another smaller problem, but it is part of the problem too. Like. That we have to look at, and as far as like GTA, one of the reasons they might be saying, well, because GTA would probably have to come on 4 disc. Well, then so be it. Put it on 4 disc. I don't really care. We had that back in the 360 era where you had to put in 4 or 5 discs sometimes on the larger games and just install them straight to the hard drive. But at least, it was there to some point, and you still had the collector's aspect of the whole
I'm
thing.
sure somebody in the know would say, listen, Mooch, this is not a problem for today. And I tend to agree. But like a lot of people online, I just saw, and I was reading through on people's opinions as I was going through some of these big, saying we have to stop this. And I was reading through. And, like people were saying GTA 6 is so big on disc. Remember we were joking about it 2 weeks ago? We were joking. We're like, it'll be 2 discs, right? Like eventually these games, as you go 7-10 years from now, and you're like, I want this should continue. It's like, Nib, you just said it. They're like $3. You say they're $3 a piece to print the CD or something. I think it's got to be less than that. But like, my point being is that like
it's less. It depends on right? I think it's 50 cents to 3
50
depending
cents,
on what
right?
kind of,
So now you have 2 discs in there for some reason. We've had that before, so you can't say, oh no, that doesn't exist.
Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy 7 on PlayStation was 3 discs, so it's not like. This is like a new thing, like, oh no, multiple discs. Like that's not like that's just people just trying to make excuses for it not being a big deal to them.
Right, to them,
like,
correct.
The thing, like I've seen people say, I always say this, that like how people want to experience games is valid. And I've seen people in the chat trying to blame digital only gamers for this. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but like, no digital only gamers responsibility is making sure you can play games your way. That's not someone else's responsibility. They're a consumer. Their responsibility is to consume content that they want to consume at the price they want to consume it at. It is the people who provide the content's responsibility to make sure that you want to play games the way you want to play. Blaming that on digital gamers is cope. you should be blaming PlayStation. If you got beef with it, you blame the person that's making the decision.
Yep, that's the same thing. Like
for
people,
gaming person, because they're a corporation,
right?
The people at the corporation who are making that decision, which is PlayStation, not digital only gamers.
And that's what people said about. And that's what people said about Game Pass, Slow-Mo. People were like saying, defending him, which they were right. They were like, "Hey, don't get mad at me for Game Pass. They provide that. I pay for it, and I'm going to use it." Right. But then we saw the repercussions of that. And what happened, and here we are today with Xbox. But like that's the thing. But you don't blame the consumer. Microsoft gave them the service. Yeah. So I'm right there with you on that. I do have a lot of super chats here, and I apologize, guys. We've had some great conversation. Just let me find where we are here. Shout out to Matua here. He says, "Oh, let's get digital. I want to get digital. Let's get into digital." Matua, stop with the songs, buddy. I love you. Glassdoor Gamer says, "I'm canceling Spotify and subbing to Columbia House for CDs. I've had enough of this digital life. I'm going to a satellite dish too." Glassdoor, we get your humor there, okay? Danelle Brown, everybody says, "Maybe I should boycott the Raiders and they'll finally win a Super Bowl again," right? I boycotted the New York Knicks and they went ahead and won. Well, there you go, Danelle. And by the way, New York state of mind. Thank you, Danelle, for being here. Matua says, "Sony is currently facing massive multi-billion euro antitrust class action lawsuits in Europe, the UK, Netherlands, Portugal, and France." Good. Well, that's fine. Let them and let us, the consumers, win. That's what Slow-Mo was kind of saying. Blame Sony and let's see if we get another way to get these games besides PSN. Glassdoor's back. He says, "Valve is facing antitrust for price fixing across PC stores. If you undercut the price on their store, they will pull all games. Ubisoft was a victim."
Yep. That happened with Ubisoft and Rainbow Six
What
Siege.
What their singer is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you
Go on, Slow-Mo.
Say what?
I said, go on, because I got an extra thing to add on.
Yep, what?
Go on.
So look, Ubisoft created some kind of starter pack or something like that was exclusive to the Ubisoft store, the Ubisoft Connect. And they wanted to kind of promote, because like 30% of their revenue goes to Valve when you buy the game on Steam. So they're trying to get more people to buy it on their own platform. Valve saw this and was like, if you don't retract that, we're going to delist your game on the Steam store. And considering that the vast majority of people who play the game are playing essentially on Steam, Ubisoft had to make a business decision and said, "All right, but we'll pull that back." But yeah, like they use their market position in the PC gaming community to strong arm other publishers who they know need Steam in order to sell their games, because unfortunately, a large portion of PC gamers are under this delusion that they're somehow different than fanboys, console fanboys. You are exactly the same. Except console fanboys will fanboy for hardware that they spent hundreds of dollars for, and you're fanboying for a free launcher that you just use some bandwidth to install. Like the fact that there are people, actually Steam gamers, that will refuse to download Epic Game Store and buy games through there and pretend like the game didn't exist if it's somehow like a timed exclusive. It's just wild to me. Like I just like it's a launcher, bro. Install it on your PC, use it, don't use it. But if a game shows up on there and you want it, then get it. Some of the stuff that they cap for is like Steam don't even stand for that. DRM in your game, and you still ball goggling, Gabe Newell there. GOG.
I do think sometimes
DRM free games, but they don't want to play on GOG. It's just you're a fanboy. You're a fanboy. This is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's just. It's unfortunate, and I wish that the PC market was more open, so that even though it's an open platform, that the actual sales of things aren't open, so that like publishers didn't get basically treated like that.
And thing is, with Ubisoft and Steam have had an on and off relationship anyway. And obviously it all came because then Ubisoft relied on Epic Game Store for a couple of years, right? And lo and behold, they dragged their sorry asses back to Steam because they realized, fuck, the only way we're making money is by selling on the Steam storefront. Which is, kind of, EA did the same thing. They were like, fuck it, we'll do our own thing. Guess what? They went and did their own thing. Guess what the result of doing EA's own thing was? back on fucking Steam. So they gave you the opportunity to walk the fuck away, but then you realized, well, shit. So now you're back again. And it's like, but then again, that isn't necessarily Steam's own fault. It's because Steam, from back in the day, took its time and spent years building itself to where it is today.
No, but Destiny, they shouldn't be removing games because someone else decided to price differently or undercut them elsewhere. That is,
they shouldn't. They shouldn't be threatening them to do it. But it's like they had they have the opportunity to walk away, and they did walk away, and now they're back. So
I mean, they're back because fanboys won't buy their, like, they literally punish publishers for not putting their game on the only game they couldn't punish. Well, that's not only game. There's some games like Riot games. You can't punish Riot because Riot's community is just like, we don't care about that. So Riot's games aren't on Steam. They couldn't punish Fortnite because Fortnite is just too big, and therefore Fortnite can survive without it. But most games can't do that. And so, it's not Steam's fault. It's not Valve's fault that they have a better launcher with more features and more benefits to gamers, and gamers prefer that. But it is their fault when they use that knowledge and that understanding of the market to strong arm a publisher into not offering a actual benefit to gamers on their own launcher. Like, actual us consumers would have benefited from that. If this starter pack that was cheaper to get into Rainbow Six Siege, that you would have got extra things that you wouldn't have gotten before, was a benefit to gamers that is no longer there because Valve was like, nah, I can't make money off of that, so you ain't going to do that. You can't.
And Slow-Mo, to that point,
running a market that way.
You know the PSN like thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like that, I get it. Like people got so upset. Sometimes I understand certain things, complaining about certain things, but some of it to me seems like just entitlement and laziness. Like, you made such a big uproar about not wanting to sign up to another account, and that would have given you crossplay and all sorts of things, right? With the PlayStation, and there's other benefits, right? And I spoke to people and they were like, yeah, okay, but you're okay with signing up for like Ubisoft or whatever. Not okay with it, but you do it, right? With other publishers. Yeah. Well, why not with PlayStation? And it's like, oh, why should I have to sign up to another one? And it's such a Karen response. It
was a massive double standard because like
massive double standard, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many games on Steam where you go to launch it and you need to like it actually shadow installs another launcher that actually is already there. And so when you start the game, it launches that launcher and launches the game. But people didn't complain about those things. I slightly understand their side of it when they said that, like, well, Sony said in order to play it going forward that I needed to have this thing when it first came out for Helldivers 2. I didn't need that. And that was valid pushback. And Sony said, all right, you won't need to sign in order to play the game. But it's just when you take it to, all right, well, none of these games should have that. It's just like, but you didn't have this issue with Rockstar's launcher. And every time you played Red Dead 2, it had that little trash launcher pop up. So, like, what's the deal? It's just weird. Like, when you wanted to play Halo Infinite on Steam, you had to sign into the Xbox's your Xbox account in order to do that. Like, it's just like the double standards I find odd. And the thing is with the PC community though, is that when they get like their hackles up, when they get ready to fight somebody, they'll make an example out of you. Like, look, it's all right, we ain't gonna buy your games. And it's just like, it's enough of them to be that petty where it's gonna hurt. You are not going to get the sales you want based off of that in that storefront. So this is why they kind of get what they want when it comes to that.
Well, yeah, but then again, it's like consumers standing up for themselves. Is if like the vast majority deem, it's like the thing is, Steam is available in 200 and something plus countries, right? A lot of these, like for example, PSN is available in 67, right? So all these people in other countries that Steam has to cater for because they're not available, other people don't cover those countries. when you mandate something like that, those customers can no longer access your game. It's like it's impossible. Your service is not available in my country. I'm
Yeah,
fucked.
but we didn't wait to see what they would do about that, because nobody actually lost access to their games. That was the fear. But obviously, like, they're not going to take a game away from someone who's already bought the game, right? Not to mention, you could just, make a PSN account in another country. Like, it's not.
But then again, it's like people just didn't accept that. They were like, we don't accept this. As a consumer, you stood on business, and you made
Yeah,
the
I mean,
company kneel.
I would say, look, cutting access to people is a good thing to complain about, but that didn't happen. But most of what I saw, the vitriol and people I was debating with online or whatever were coming at me and commenting was, why should we have to sign up for another account? And I think a lot of like fanboys conflated it with the like, oh, but it's blocking other people, like they give a shit about other people, like, they conflated it with that to try and give themselves more of a, backing. But the truth is, for some reason, they just had a double standard. Like, again, no one lost access to their accounts, right? We don't actually know how that would have been dealt with. Obviously,
So-
Sony
so-
doesn't want to lose money either. They don't want to lose money. So they would have presumably found some way to make it more accessible in more countries.
Well, no, they
Yeah,
wouldn't, because
a
PSN
lot of those
fundamentally.
guys completely stopped complaining as soon as the requirement for them was gone. So like when it came
Yep.
to the global reasoning that they were using, oh, it's like 100 countries that you sold the game in that aren't going to have access to this game anymore. And it's just like, before it got to the point where they completely went back on everything, when they got what they wanted, which was to not have to sign up, they were fine. They had moved on. They were like, they didn't really care about the other people. It was just an excuse. Which look, we see people do this all the time. It's not fine, but you just accept it that people make excuses to choose to be angry
I
about
think
certain
that's why the Gabe, with the Steam machine, it was really quite fascinating from a social media perspective, because I will say, like, Steam fans and Gabe fans are some of like the most devout I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's can be very, very tribalistic, for a storefront at the end of the day. But I think that was such a heavy thing. There's even people like, Ono, it's Alex and stuff. I think he was missing when it got. I don't know if he was on holiday or something, but you could tell he was on
I think
holiday.
he's on
Yeah,
vacation.
but all this like kind of fanfare about console pricing, and then the Steam Deck increases in cost significantly more than any of the consoles have. In addition to that, you have a $1,400 system with a controller and 2 terabyte that
Right.
can't even outperform a PS5.
I will give Alex credit. He did. Like he didn't.
Oh no,
defend
I'm sure he
any
did.
of that
Yeah,
stuff,
I'm sure he
right?
did.
Like,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he gave it
overall, I do get your point
10%
that
of the
like
angst and vitriol he
there's a
did.
good number of Steam gamers that like didn't have a problem with certain things, or still were going to go ahead and buy it regardless, even though like the Steam machine is an awful value. It is way overpriced for underpowered hardware that is even further underpowered because of the small form factor they put it in, and they needed to underclock it even further in order to deal with the cooling issue. Like that entire product, even if it would have came out 2 years ago, it still would have been, I would say, a bad value. But it's even worse value now, considering how much it costs
price,
in order to own one. And sure, there are going to be a ton of people saying, "Oh, with slow mo, it's still selling out." I'm like, how do you know it's selling out? They didn't open the gates really. They just basically had a reservation system. You don't know exactly how many they're actually going to sell of this thing. I don't think it's going to be a lot. But just one more thing. I think a perfect example of like the double standard of things is the Steam controller, which I own because I'm a kind of a controller addict. I have like so many damn controllers. It's ridiculous. But I got the Steam controller, but it's really a closed platform controller that's supposed to be working on an open platform, which is PC.
Yeah.
Outside of the Steam store, if the game doesn't run on Steam, the controller is essentially just another fancy looking mouse. It doesn't actually work the way that they have intended it to work. Sure, there are community-based like mods that can allow it to work, have X input to work outside of Steam, like on Epic Game Store and the Xbox app and whatnot. But why should that be the case? Every other controller that comes out supports X input, D input, or when PlayStation puts their allows their controllers to work on PC, they got the PlayStation protocol working. Why would Valve just have Steam input and that's it? And just and the amount of people who just didn't care about that whatsoever.
We didn't hear any outrage about that, Slow-Mo.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
The thing is,
there's tons of double standards with things. Go ahead.
Valve does not mandate DRM, by the way. That is up to the person who puts their game on there. Valve Net doesn't tell anyone.
They could be like GOG and just say there's no DRM.
But the thing is, the publishers want DRM. So EA, who puts their game on there, we will put our own DRM on there. We will put DRM on there. We will do this. Steam says, bring your game to our store. Go for it. And then they're like, well, we will put DRM. We will put DRM. GOG, they get the games that don't come with DRM and they release on their store, right? Because they're DRM free policy, but that's why they don't get a lot of the newer games, because all these companies go, we're going to put our own DRM or something like de novo. And so, but Steam never mandates it. Steam will never force someone to put it on there. So if a game has DRM...
Singer, wouldn't you say what GOG does is integrity over money?
They do integrity over money because they stand on business.
On games, popular games, because we refuse to allow DRM on our platform. So they don't get those games. Now imagine with the amount of power that Valve has, where you are the number one, and you wouldn't get any backlash from the gamers because the actual PC gamers hate DRM because it affects performance. When you already are strong arming publishers to not allow certain like features that benefit them on their own launchers over your launcher, if you said no DRM, what are they going to do?
Right.
Say, well, all right, well, I'm not going to put my game in Steam. All right, good luck.
Right.
I mean, they could do that, but then again, that's their decision. They could probably mandate that there's no DRM. But I mean, it's a tug of war between then all the publishers versus Valve, and it's like, do you want to have that war? Because bear in mind, publishers exist outside of people who have their own storefronts. So you could have people like Square Enix, you could have Capcom, you could have all these people might be like, well, fuck you then. And so it's like, do you want to have that battle or not? You could potentially do it, but what are the repercussions of having that battle with the publishers? So they're probably like, well, we don't want to...
And look, hold on. I didn't know this. Shout out to the real Innate in the chat. That's the homie. Innate says that Steam has its own DRM.
Yes, it's optional. It's an optional choice for developers.
So they offer it. Like you're offering, like you clearly aren't against DRM if you're offering it.
Right. Well, no, but they don't mandate
it's
it.
Like that's like saying I'm anti-drug abuse, but I do offer crystal meth if you want it. I'll give you some crystal meth if you want it. You know, I'm not. Hey, don't do drugs, kids. But hey,
here,
high, I got you.
I got you.
Did they offer the
option?
Are you offering, or is that just a rhetorical question?
I'm against drug with some crystal meth.
No, but it's then again, it's still not mandated. It's just an option they give to people because some people don't want to use de novo and other stuff for obvious reasons. So obviously they offer their own, but as they say, it's completely optional. Thousands of games release on Steam without DRM. The only games that generally come to Steam with DRM are, guess what, the big AAA games.
Yeah, no, and listen, so we're going on a little bit of a side note here, but the thing that I think is interesting here is we've definitely shown the negatives that can come from PlayStation and what they're trying to do. But my point, and I think Slow-Mo did a great job of putting it out there, and we had a great conversation about it right now, is even something like Valve, and it's not apples for apples, but there's everything that's digital only always will present some sort of fear or danger that possibly could loom in the future. That's why when people are like, well, they could do this, and they could do this, and they could do this, and it's like, yeah, but so could Valve, and so could this, and so could... Like, that is where we are right now with everything. And I think the only thing that really kind of holds a little bit of water, I do like Nib's numbers on physical, game sales. My question for Nib, think about this for a second. I got a couple super chats I really want to catch up on here. Is if PlayStation knows all...
I gotta get ready for the...
Oh, that's right. Yo, Slow-Mo, shout out to you, buddy. I appreciate you being here. Shout out to the great Gaming Forte, too. And Slow-Mo, I got to get you back on here, even if I got to do like a special Friday show for Slow-Mo. Slow-Mo, thank you.
Any Friday you're on, just let me know. I'll jump.
Oh, there you go, folks. You heard it here first. That's happening. All right, Slow-Mo, thank you so much, buddy. Go over and check out DPS after Crossfire, please. These guys are fantastic. Slow-Mo, thank you, brother.
Hey, no problem. You guys have a great night. And Singer.
Yeah, you too, dude.
Singer.
Yes.
Give that blow up doll a rest tonight, okay?
Hey man,
just let her go.
Have you fixed up your ankles yet?
Oh, my ankles are just fine. Actually, I had surgery on them. Now, did you have any additional surgery on that blow up doll, or did you?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I sent it to you in the post. You can have fun with it afterwards.
Oh gosh, I
That's
don't
great.
want none of that. Anyway,
Is the blow up doll? Does it have Gabe Newell printed on it?
No, actually, it's Urza from Fairy Tale.
Well, that would be a blow-up doll with big tits then.
Oh, shout out to the great Slow-Mo backslap, everybody. So Dre says here, he goes, WTF, do the numbers matter? Why isn't an option being taken away? And why are people okay with it? Don't let this BS slide. It's not okay. Dre, I think we're talking about all aspects of it here. And Dre, listen, anybody that feels the way Dre feels, I'm right there with you. I understand. Believe me, again, having Noof on the show tonight has been great because Noof has been a staunch physical release gamer since the day I've known him, and I've known him for over a decade. So to have Noof on tonight, and this wasn't even planned. It wasn't like I asked him because the news came out. We talked about this over a week ago to get him on the show. So it's great. So I hear you, Dre. Shout out to D. He goes, I see you, Wise. D, Wise, you have a D fan out there, buddy. Shout out to D487. Black Metal Gamer says, when PS6 reveal comes later, people already moved on. So he's saying time will heal. If I understand you.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, he's saying time heals all wounds. Wonder if Sony will allow PS5 disc player to PS6. That was the original thought.
$800 to $1,000 and no physical.
Right, that's going to be.
I'm sure that's going to go down a storm.
No, I'm with you on that, Nib. I think they're going to have to answer that situation with back compat. So that's interesting. Babor says, okay. No, Babor's here, everybody. Please put your seatbelt on and stay in your seat. Babor says, okay, we're still going digital. So you know what Sony is doing? Boo, Sony bad. Sony always trying to screw its customers that they rely on. He says, grow up. So Babor, right after we talk about Dre, Babor's on the other side. Well, naturally, if you've been here week to week, we know where Babor is standing right now. Glintzer says, go ahead.
I was going to say, Mooch, I've said on this podcast, right, many times, like, my cousins borrow my physical games. I literally lent my... He was never going to buy bloody 007 First Light. He's a casual gamer.
Yeah.
But we do watch James Bond. I said, look, give this game a go. Here you go, lend it to him. He really liked it. He's interested in the sequel. It's that kind of flexibility that I'm just never. I don't want to lose that flexibility and ownership I have now.
You said that there's antitrust lawsuits against Sony right now in you said France and Germany and stuff like that.
Yeah, all sorts of countries. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Just an honest to God question here. Okay, we sit here and talk a good game and all about down with Sony, bad, whatever. At the end of the day, what the hell is going to happen here? Like, what can they make Sony do or not do? And do you really think this is really good? I personally think this is a nothing burger. I think people just want something to bitch and complain about, and then they're just going to go the way.
I really don't think it is. Because even if imagine God of War Ragnarok, let's just say, I don't know what the figure it's on now, or even take Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man, what is that, 20-something million, 23 million, right? Now, according to their own numbers, 66% of those sales are physical, right? Again, that's not including people who bought it resale. I remember there was a data point from PlayStation where I believe Spider-Man and Miles Morales, they had over 65 million players based on 33 million sales. But let's just say 66%, according to their own data, 66% bought physical. You're talking like 12, 13 million people right there, right? That bought the physical copy of that game. And across all of their different games, you have such high physical splits. So we're not talking about like a small number. We're talking tens of millions of people.
The question I have for you, real quick, though, is I meant to ask you this. I was starting to ask you about an hour ago, and I didn't get to finish it. is if all these numbers you're saying and those percentages are so high on physical,
Yeah.
and we both agree that when Sony sees a profit and something excelling, they're not going to pull back from that, right? That's why everyone's saying they're going to go digital.
Yeah.
So if your numbers are all accurate and you're saying that this digital to physical thing is inaccurate that people are reporting, and you've proven such with your numbers.
No, not it's
why
inaccurate.
is it,
it's out of context.
But why?
Not it's inaccurate.
Okay, out of context. Thank you. I'll rephrase. Why is Sony making their decision if you've sitting here and proven to us that physical games is where people are buying
Because
them? Why?
They want to push those people over to digital so they can make an extra 30%, right? Like, think how much money that would be. If they can get that number of people, or even a portion of those people over, and you make 13 million.
But you risk losing a lot of customers too, right? Hear me out for a second. So that 30% per is a very large number. I get that, okay? But that's per one game. That's for one game, that 30%. Now you have people in the chat saying, I'm not going to go buy a PlayStation 6. Now you've lost somebody for the lifeline of 7 years. That's a much larger number than 30% of that one title, even if it is across those millions of people. So my point being is, I don't understand
this
that.
Is the whole. This is why I said I think it's short-sighted, right? In their current bravado and lack of competition, because let's be honest, Xbox is not competition. Nintendo is still kind of a slightly different market. I'm not saying they're not competition, but it's not quite the same as, say, Xbox was for PlayStation, right? So they kind of have game right now. They have it all to themselves. Steam Machine came out. It's so high priced. It's not
it's
really,
not really.
It could have been a threat.
No.
It's not. It's not. So they have almost a monopoly on gaming within the console sphere, right?
Yeah.
So they are pushing. It's what every company does.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
Even Xbox.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Wait,
they
shut up.
bravado.
No. Mooch, you were saying that people are saying, "Oh, I'm not going to buy a PSX." Come on,
I know.
now.
I know.
Everyone speaks a good game, and then let that damn thing launch. The same people are going to be there first, face forward in Twitter with a photo kissing their PlayStation 6 box.
Thing is, they won't. They won't.
Enthusiasts will, but the casuals won't.
They won't. And in answer to Wise, the lawsuits are very specific. Like, the biggest one is in the UK, and 12 million consumers. And their claim is Sony's requirement for digital PlayStation games, downloadable content, and in-game purchases to be sold exclusively through the PlayStation Store has a limited price competition, leaving customers to pay more than they would in a competitive marketplace. Now, PlayStation responded by saying, well, look, there's competition from other gaming platforms, despite how bad they're doing. But see, that right there is the problem of them going all digital. You will eliminate price competition. Everything is sold through the store. Now, if this wins, this comes to the Netherlands case, right? Where 1.7 million players have got the case through the courts, and their lawsuit is that Sony's standard 30% commission, referred to as the Sony tax, has contributed to digital PlayStation games costing significantly more than their physical counterparts. If successful, they will require Sony to allow third-party retailers to sell digital PlayStation games.
There you go.
So, if they win, PlayStation will be forced to not lock you to their store. They will have to distribute their games elsewhere, which is the best for consumer, because then you have price competition.
100%.
That's fine.
100%.
Absolutely.
And to that point, right, my brother-in-law, when he was playing GT7, he's not really a racing game fan. I said, just have my copy, right? Obviously, I still want to play GT7. I play online and stuff. So I went on PSN. It was fucking 70 pounds, dude. And I was like, come on, this game is like how many years old? Went on Amazon, it was like £24 or something. I just bought it off Amazon next day delivery, Bob's Job.
Let me do a quick shout out to if you don't mind, I just want to do a quick shout out to the great Gaming Forte, because he's on DPS with Slow-Mo, and he probably has limited time. Forte, it's great to have you here. One of the pioneers of CrossFire, the great Gaming Forte, everybody. Forte, how you doing, buddy? And we know you have your ear to the ground with everything that's going on out there in the physical world. What say you, buddy?
Oh no! Well, first of all, I heard the heart form. Shout out to Forte. I was like, what? I'm sitting at my PC getting ready for the podcast. I was like, I ain't the one setting it up, so I ain't got to be there right at 9:55, 8:55.
I knew it. I was gonna say it's on Slow-Mo's channel tonight. That's right.
Yeah. He can set it up, and I can like scroll in there literally 2 minutes before the show starts and be all right. So, but no, man, yeah, appreciate it as always. You guys do a great job. I mean, you probably didn't even know. You say, "Dang, Forte's actually in the chat." I am always in the chat.
I appreciate that, Forte.
All the time.
Forte, we miss you, Forte.
Yeah, miss you guys too. But it's all interesting, and my overall thought on this is it's more disingenuous on the gamer side of it, I feel, because I feel like this noise isn't really something that anybody should not have expected. It's like we've been talking about the direction that digital is going, and I'm not trying to say that they're right in doing what they're doing. I think it's appalling, and if anybody should be kind of upset about it, is me, because it affects me.
That's right.
Job wise, it affects me. So
that's right.
But we all knew this is the direction that it's kind of been going in for a while now, and you know, I was listening to them talk about the numbers, and those numbers are definitely not super accurate. They're taken out of context a lot. But we can't say that.
Wait. Can you explain the context that they're taking out?
No. I'm just saying the context overall is I understand that a lot more people buy, digital, but I also know they're talking about it mostly in a revenue standpoint, because when it comes to like the revenue side of it, the games that generate the most revenue are the digital platform games for the most part. So
yeah, they're live service games, right? Which as I said, skew significantly digital, because why would you buy a multiplayer game physical if you're going to have to load it every day for the next 6 months? You wouldn't really.
Yeah, so
right, but that is where PlayStation is actually taking things out of context to try and make it seem like their games and the same demographics of consumers, everyone's moved over purely to digital, but that is not the case. Single player tentpole games and their bread and butter. Don't forget, their games are predominantly single player. Their tentpole games are again, mostly physical splits, more physical than digital. So they're kind of trying to use third-party live service games as a Trojan horse to push this all digital future, and I think that is disingenuous.
Yeah, and that's the absolute thing that it really comes down to. But it also doesn't help that us as gamers feed into the whole narrative. Not trying to say everybody on this podcast, but when they come out and scream to the rooftops that say 80% of gamers buy digital, like you said, that number is based on the entire revenue and profits that they're making off of digital purchases on their store. Just like we get on Xbox where they talk about monthly active users and never give you the actual number that of people or games or things that they sold. They just talk about, here's this really big number that's really impressive that makes us look better in the conversation that we're having. So they're weaponizing the fact that digital revenue is so vastly higher than spending on physical, it just dwarfs the whole conversation. Now, the end day is the reason they come out with this now, and people just got to like read the, look beyond the forest. They're basically telling you that no company wants to drop this news on you on the eve of releasing their new console. When they come out with a PS6, they don't want the conversation to be taken over by the fact that PS6 is going to be digital only. Even knowing a lot of gamers out there kind of already assumed when the PS5 came out and they had the digital version, and then when the Pro came out, they had the standalone disc drive. Everybody kind of knew that was kind of the writing on the wall that the PS6 most likely ain't going to have a disc drive. But once again, the common consumer doesn't know that. So they're going to say, we're going to drop this bomb on everybody a year and a half before it actually happens. So we're going to get our whole player base, the whole community, everybody in gaming. We're going to let all of them know this ahead of time. So when it finally happens and we tell people PS6 is digital only, it's not going to be no big uproar. Take the blunt blow right now and allow that kind of to fester and, ride the way. Because the biggest thing that I think now, 88 million people have engaged with that tweet. That's a lot of people.
It's more than that now. I'm seeing almost 100 million. It's 100 million. 100 million.
Now think about this. And I it's going back to the thing with Bungie and stuff. When they did their whole petition and everything about making Destiny 3, it was like close to 400,000 people that signed that petition. I told people, I was like, listen, I said, this is a great thing that we doing, but 400,000 people on the position ain't gonna make them make a $1 billion company change their mind to spend billions of dollars to make something. Now, that is completely different when you're talking about 100 million people engaging with a tweet. But the question is, how much of that 100 million is actually going to stick to the thing that they're saying? You're not going to go out and buy a PS6. Listen, we've been telling people forever that every time you go out and buy a digital game, you're basically telling them that you don't care about ownership of your stuff. Yep. Because ultimately that's where it is. And the more and more you do it, the more and more they feel emboldened to do it. You know, they go ahead.
Forte, I got a question. Since you run, your job is sales of games and everything, how much? Okay, so we can think whatever we want to think, but our population slowly and steadily are dying out. I mean, we are the old guard. But how much are you seeing on a day-to-day basis at your store? These younger kids like in my kids' demographic, like 18, 19, coming in and buying physical games as opposed to like, Steam cards or PlayStation Store cards or whatever,
It's pretty mixed. I mean, you got to remember, most of the people now are being trained, not just by the companies themselves, but by their parents to buy digital. Like I probably sell more gift cards than anything for consoles and stuff. We sell a lot of games. We sell a pretty decent amount, but if I had looked at the breakdown of revenue when it comes to like stuff that we're selling, Nintendo, like as a console, it's probably heads above everybody else because they haven't really anchored themselves to saying that we're going to be a digital platform. They're pretty much saying you can still buy games wherever you want to, but the fact that people know that Nintendo games hold a really good value long term, they still are willing to do that compared to other platforms and stuff like that. But the biggest thing just really comes down to is the time. It's never been a situation where you haven't been able to go look at a game on the PlayStation or Xbox store and see that if you went to like Amazon or GameStop or even Best Buy or Walmart, that it wasn't significantly cheaper 3 or 4 months after launch. This isn't nothing new. So now when I see people comparing these things now, I'm like, bro, where were you freaking 2-3 years ago? Where were you 7 months ago? Yeah. Now it's more of a conversation because now it's a finite thing. Now it's something that they put out there for everybody to see, and they're saying we're abolishing it, and now you want to act like you care about it. But this is something that has been going on for ever since digital and PlayStation came out and basically said that when they took physical media out of stores, the reason they did is because like Ib said, they wanted to bring more market share to their own platform. That they wanted to make that 30%. They didn't want to give that up to a middleman. And then but think about it. You also go back to like why. Remember at one point, the physical copies of games were digital copies used to be cheaper than physical for like the first couple of months that they or like the first year. But then they changed it and made them all the same price because they didn't want to undercut their partners that was bringing consoles and bringing games to the ecosystem. They didn't want to have an unfair advantage that way. Let me ask you this: are they going to change that? Are they going to say that digital games are now cheaper because there's no middleman? I'm gonna tell you what they're going to say. They're going to say that, well, you know what, the economics of the world have changed. The price of games then being $60-$70 is not the world we live in now. Right. And they may be right about that, but guess what? That's not the excuse you used then.
Right. We can sit here and cry and bitch and complain and moan and do whatever we want, but the problem is, if that next generation, the customers that are growing into what we are leaving, if they don't care, we can sit here and might as well beat our head up against a brick wall for all it matters. You know what I'm saying?
And that is literally where we are now. You know, everybody sat there on their hands for an entire generation, was like, oh, I just buy my games digital. And I'm not attacking any, because listen, I tell people all the time, I buy digital games too. The only digital games I buy are games that I know I'm never going to get rid of. If I know I'm not going to get rid of, I'm always going to go back and play it every once in a while, I buy it digitally because I don't want to have to mess around and have to find a disc for it. But if it's a game like Call of Duty, outside of Game Pass being the thing and I'm having it on there, every Call of Duty I've always bought physically, because guess what? I'm not playing the last one from 2 years ago when the new one comes out. I'm using that to go towards the price of the next one. But a lot of people are willing to like let digital games die on their platform, but then they want to cry about preservation, but you're never going to touch that game ever again anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the disconnect that people kind of got to think about the long lasting ramifications of the decisions they're making. Nobody says you don't have to play and buy and support digital,
right?
But when there are situations that kind of seem like it doesn't seem right, you kind of have to speak up and not just wait until, you know, we get to a jumping off point like we are right now.
Again, though, the only thing I'm saying is people have been speaking with their wallets, because this whole thing, like, if we talk on revenue terms, we know that live service games make the lion's share of revenue, right? Not just the games themselves, but, you know, the annualized sports games and Call of Duty, the ball and right? But also with the microtransactions, with, you know, fucking FIFA cards or whatever, and all the rest, all the MTX, right? But the thing is, based on that logic, does that mean we should just stop making single player games because the lion's share of revenue is from live service? Should PlayStation just focus, you know, primarily on live games? Of course not. So the same thing applies with this whole digital physical conversation. Yes, there is a very high swing towards digital, predominantly in the live service sphere, but that does not mean there is also a very prevalent physical split on the single player tentpole side of gaming, because that is still has a significant amounts of physical presence. And that is why I think we need to kind of be careful of the context, because if we're saying because live service revenue is so dominant, live service games are so dominant in digital, we should just do away with physical. Then by the same logic, if live service revenue is dominant, we should just do away with single player tentpole games.
But you know what's funny? One of the things, Noof, let me just say this, and I'm going to give you the mic. I just want to say, like, the one thing that Forte said that a lot of people aren't talking about is, like, game preservation and what you buy, you definitely want to have ownership for. But it's interesting when people say that and they're like, I want to have these games forever. And they're like, well, I don't want to have to pay for it twice. We are on the cusp of next week of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. What is it called there? Resynced. And everyone's like, yo, I'm buying that. I'm buying that. Well, don't you already own that? Right? But you're going to buy it again. So everyone's like, I don't want to buy the game again. I already bought the game, right? But you're going to buy it again. So it's like my whole thing, like, but here's the other thing. It happened also with Blu-ray. Remember when it was, we had just DVD and then the Blu-ray would come out and it was a better quality, right? Or then it was HD and then it came better quality. How many, there was people that were like, oh my God, I've bought The Godfather 18 times already. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, remember, it's the same reason some of your girls go and get plastic surgery so you'll sleep with them again. You know?
No chills,
Hymenectomy.
Well, you also remember when Bethesda was releasing their 15th version of Elder Scrolls.
Yes.
They had the Legendary Edition, the Anniversary Edition, but guess what happened? On consoles, you had to buy those. Yep. On PC, if you bought it on Steam, guess what happened on Steam? They just gave you an upgrade to your license.
There it is. But people are like, all these remasters and people being like, oh my God, I wish they would redo Infamous, and I wish they would redo this, and I wish they would. I'll buy that again. But then when this conversation comes up, they're like, I already own it. I don't want to buy it again.
Yeah.
But like next week, everyone's going to buy Resynced. You know what I mean? It's like
a lot of problems too.
It's interesting.
There's a few other problems that I'm concerned about as well, and a lot of it too is not just digital, but it's all about this online, this sign-in bullshit. Like we had none of this bullshit in the basically in the Xbox and the PS2 generation. You had a disc, you stuck it in the machine, whatever, it just worked. And now, we got a lot of these, aren't people concerned that, your game could be just delisted or disappear, or they don't renew licenses, then you can't access it at all, or it's like the movie industry where, political agendas get involved, and all of a sudden, that boss gets removed, or they tone down the graphics, or they put the clothes back on the lady because, people are upset, kind of like the God of War sex scenes that everybody's concerned about in the remakes are going to get changed because of that. See, when you got the original and it can't be touched, especially if the game doesn't allow you to do an update because it's not online, like the original PS2 versions. Those games are pretty well secure. But that's the other side of this coin that nobody really talks about is actual preservation, as having the content the way you remember. We've seen the movie industry change numerous movies and stuff in the movies because of updates and shit like that, where if you actually own the VHS tape or you own the original DVD, and again, it's not privy to a friggin' download or an update, because every time some of these games update, sometimes it makes them better. Sometimes it actually makes them friggin' worse and makes the games unplayable in some cases. So there's all that bullshit, too, that goes along with this digital ecosystem. And again, it's about control. It's about them making more money, which I totally get. But at the same time, you're taking away options. And I hate the fact when, again, it comes down to the only option is there's one option and there's no, and it's just to comply. I hate that shit. That's bullshit. That's anti-consumer. Look, it doesn't take that much for anybody these days to make a disk drive. It doesn't take too much to have it even plug it in via USB. And if people really want the fucking thing, they'll go out and buy it, and they'll still be able to play their shit.
Noof, that's a good point. That's what I can't remember. I shout out again to Ryan, Mystic Ryan. Like he had said this. He goes, the one thing he's like, are we gonna end up getting like
Mooch, I'm about to get him out of here.
yeah, Forte. Thank you so much, buddy. Forte, please come back on the show soon.
I'll make some time to come back. It's usually I'm available like after 6 o'clock, so I'll make sure I'll text and let you know, but I should be able to come through.
All right, I'll talk to you in the DMs. Shout out to the Great Gaming Forte guys. Go over and check out
Appreciate
DPS.
You guys, y'all have a great rest of the day, and just remember, think about the decisions that you make when it comes to things. It's not serious like that out here, but the biggest thing we got to realize is remember that they literally just not even a couple of days ago deleted over 500 games out of people's movie libraries, and that's where
and a lot of racing games I loved are delisted because of licensing and stuff.
Yeah.
And not all of that is PlayStation's fault, but the fact that all of these games are multifaceted, that can happen to anything.
That's right.
I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys next time. All right.
Yo, appreciate it, Forte. Shout out to, I got a couple of super chats here that I want to let Noof and DS get in here on a few topics here. Shout out to Glinter. He says, imagine mandating hourly facial scans for certain games or mandating the use of specific credit card to make a purchase. The future. Glinter, I mean, the fear can continue to go on and on. Detour Boar, he says, let Sony do the PS6 rollout before jumping the gun. The article said PSN Store and retailers and other innovative ways to access your games. No lock-in. Well, Detour, I'm not saying you're wrong, but, they should come out and be a little more forthcoming before we pump the brakes. I understand everybody's concern. I just wonder how far down the concern, rabbit hole we're going to go. Babor says, Singer, stop lying. They said they'll sell codes outside the store. Sony hatred is crazy. Sony needs its customers happy. Don't be a child. Well, listen. Some of what DS is saying, Babor, I totally agree, and I understand his point. I'm saying, but when you're on a digital front, and we gave some good examples with Valve, you can go down any rabbit hole of concerns, and they're all valid. But how far do you want to go? Meth says digital library in quotes. He says, "Is this the most misleading thing in this age? They're just licenses. We don't own anything. Don't get too attached." Shout out to Meth. The Gaming Ledger.
You will own nothing. You will own nothing, and you will like it.
And you'll like it.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
And you'll be happy. Right.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
Gaming Ledger says PlayStation.
That is the fact.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's called delirium.
That is a
medical diagnosis.
Ledger, shout out to Ledger, who's on the show a week or two ago. Shout out to the Great Gaming Ledger. He says PlayStation is trying to be Apple, or in the gaming world, Nintendo. The sign's been there with exclusives and their own store features. Shout out to Ledger there. Glass, what do you got, buddy?
No, I'm sorry. They've one-upped Nintendo now. Come on, Nintendo. even in terms of how much they put the price up of the Switch, they're still doing physical games. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's fair anymore. Right now, PlayStation is in that belligerent and what's the word? Where you're too confident in yourself kind of, which they sometimes go into every now and again. Yeah.
No, I hear you there, Nib. But don't forget, Nib, they're still selling the original Zelda for $50. So I just want to go back real quick to the I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Glassdoor Gamer says, Death Singer, try losing your account on PC. It's the same BS. We already went through that one. Gaming Ledger says Xbox One still sold after TV slowed down later. So he's saying, Ledger, this was a while ago, this was an hour ago, so I don't want to misread or misspeak there. I know what you're saying. I think you're saying they had their down, then they went up, and then it slowed down again. Shout out to Bespoke. He says, people have spoken with their wallet.
I just don't want to touch on that. He is right, obviously, factually. But remember, early adopters never really give you much of a sign of the wider consensus and demographics. There's always going to be a select few hardcore enthusiasts that, within those first year or two or whatever, just buy the system because they were going to buy it basically no matter what, pretty much.
That's true.
They don't represent the long-term math.
The long-term. Yeah. Go ahead, Noof.
I just wanted to say, I also have to worry about what repercussions things like this leave for the retailer. Now, we all are quite aware that retail space has been shrinking exponentially the last few years, largely because, again, services like Game Pass obviously took a lot of control out of retailers' hands. Like, why stock an Xbox game or why stock a lot of them when obviously people aren't going to go there to buy them? They're going to get them digitally through Game Pass or otherwise. And, it hasn't been quite as bad on the PlayStation front and certainly not Nintendo. But here's the thing, and I've said this on my podcast, I've said this with my troop, is like, what we fail to see as well, when people walk into a storefront. Now, I'm not, for us guys, everybody that's in this podcast, we're quite aware of what's happening in the gaming industry. We do podcasts weekly. We talk about this stuff constantly. We follow the industry. The average consumer does not. Now, the first thing that's going to turn away a lot of people is going to be the price. I can see Santa Claus disappointing a lot of kids moving forward. The consoles are going to be well over $1,000, certainly up here in Canada. That's strike number one. That's going to make it very hard for a lot of these retailers to even want to stock these things because they're going to have massive amounts of dollars tied up in inventory. Second of all, when you have a game in a shelf, and this is very evident because here, when I walk in and I look at the three sections, I see PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Nintendo's section is relatively fairly full. Almost all of their games are in the shelf. I go over to PlayStation, there's like 4 or 5 times as many games. And a lot of the third-party stuff, which is interesting, I see the copy in the shelf for PlayStation and nothing for Xbox. Now, as an Xbox first consumer, that's very disturbing to me because the impression I get, if I didn't know any better, is that this game does not exist for my preferred platform. It does, but it means I got to track it down through Amazon or I got to drive to 500 retailers to go find a copy. Like, games in shelves is marketing itself. If it's a small part of it, but the thing is, it's like that wonder. When we walk in and you don't know, and you see the case and you see the artwork, and sometimes people make impulse purchases based on just seeing a physical thing in the shelf. And you can't do that if you take that away. And so, like, how is this going to damage you're also talking about, like, essentially the biggest publisher for retailers is PlayStation. It's the biggest brand probably worldwide, and now all of a sudden you take that control out of their hands, and why are you going to stock the whole shelves with $1,000 consoles and overpriced game? Well, there won't be any overpriced games. That's the thing. People aren't going to know. So what am I buying this console with? Is it just a controller? Like, what are we getting here? How are you going to market that? Are you going to have a big TV and a kiosk saying get PlayStation Network and load these games? I really want to know how they're going to navigate this. I would imagine as a retailer right now, you're really pissed off. I've already seen some tweets online from retailers that they're not happy about this because this is kind of like the last straw. It's like, well, you guys are really pushing our shit in this time because we're not going to have anything to put in our friggin' shelves. And, you bring people into the store. It's not just buy a game. They buy a soft drink. They might buy some clothes. They spend more money in retail.
Well, I mean, Noof,
the game or this console,
Noof, right? It's a little bit different. And, it's great because we have you're in Canada. We have Nib and we have DS and they're over in the UK. And you have me, Jay, and Wise here in the States. I will say in my area, predominantly it would be a Best Buy to go make a physical purchase. Best Buy has gotten rid of physical media a while ago. So, like, they really don't have a lot of that here anyways. Now, again, it's a small set. I'm only talking about the States. There are other stores. I heard one was called was it called Rasputin? I don't know if that's a southern store. Jay, do you know about that? I've never heard of that retailer, but they said they're still selling
does
games.
Like Walmart and stuff, they carry games?
I think Walmart still carries games. Yes, Walmart, Target.
Obviously, GameStop does, right?
GameStop does, but my God, when you go into GameStop now, it's more like a clothing store and you buy like dolls and stuff.
30% of the store is games
Yeah,
now.
it's not a lot of games.
Let me say this about this. Let me feed back onto what Noof was saying about the loss of all of this. And I said a tweet last night about this as well. There's just something being lost here. I remember very well when I was a kid, going to my local Toys R Us, and I wanted a copy of Super Mario Brothers 2 back in the day. I would come get off at the school bus, go to Toys R Us. They would always be sold out. One day that the manager held a copy for me, and I ran home, got the money, ran back that day. I remember with Zelda, the physical copy of Zelda, we would go on these road trips, and I would just be poring over the manual page by intricate page, like I was getting a PhD in the subject.
Same.
And there was something about when you got that game. It was a whole pomp and circumstance back in the day with Toys R Us. You got the golden ticket, Willy Wonka.
Yeah, you had to go get the ticket and you had to bring it to the front window.
Yeah, yep, you got, and all the other kids who just got regular toys, they knew you've been summoned to on high, so they would always be jealous. They'd be like, "Shit, I got this."
Well, what are you going to give your kids for Christmas now? They're going to open up a blank box, and you're just going to give them like a money card to go spend on shops.
It is sad because, like, I went to Curry's the other day, right? I was buying all the fucking appliances for my house, and I was there with my son. He's looking at games. He's looking at the fucking on the shelves and stuff. He's looking through. I'm trying to get him into gaming, and that is a part of gaming culture, is to visually see. Me sitting at home and just going through the fucking PSN store it does not have the same cultural impact and the tactility. He's literally looking through aisles of games, and it is scary that we might lose that, and the only way.
And we're not going to no longer get midnight launches like we used to. Remember?
That's what I'm saying.
It's just
but if you listen,
become this transactional fucking attached to things. Right?
Nib, I'm with you. Because I've lived it. But what's interesting about the story that just happened between Noof and Wise and yourself, Nib, and me in the same boat with, I believe me, I'm right there with you, is that we saw the degradation, right, of like going from those Toys R Us days to losing the midnight releases to then the switch over to digital and now how it's taken over. And it's that, and if you actually, Nib, and I know you have a younger family, majority of the people, because mine are a little bit older, my kids, like they don't, that nostalgia that hits me in the feels and Wise and Noof and you,
I agree.
They don't really have that because all their other media is just on their phone, their iPad, or it's quick. They're either PC gaming now, or if it's on console, they don't even think about it. They're like,
but that's really dangerous for console, right? Because even from a retail perspective, what is the incentive for? Because I used to work in games retail, right? I don't know if I've mentioned it before.
No, you didn't mention that. That's interesting.
But yeah, I used to work in central London in a game store.
Oh, okay.
It was called Game Focus. It was an independent one.
Nice.
Across the road from me was a game. And, I used to be one of those where I have early copies. They used to give me fucking codes and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, like, so we make games, and that is actually the majority of the margin. The margin is not on the hardware; it's on the software you sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what incentive does a retailer have to really push this new console when you're not even games to sell anyway? You're switching to digital, so you're kind of cutting off my bloodline, right? So the same people who have lifted you to where you are in this dominant position now you're saying, do you know what? We don't actually need you. We make more money without you. But they're the ones who literally pushed your product to begin with, right? Like, we would have to promote, this is the PlayStation, amazing new features, amazing games, whatever. That was part of it. But now, if we're not going to sell the games, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic.
No, and I mean, that's something we've brought up a few times. I think when it comes down to it, I guess I would just, and it's kind of rhetorical. I don't know if anyone wants to answer it, but like, you take a chain as big as Walmart, Nib, and you say, okay, Walmart, we're taking the games away, but we still want you to stock the console. I mean, Walmart is massive. Like they're massive. I don't know the answer to this. Do they care? Do they care the way you just emphasized? I don't know. I know that if there was another product in that store that had two SKUs that kind of married together and they removed one SKU, Walmart's probably like, I don't care. I'll just open that shelf up to something else. Like something else can't wait to get into Walmart. Do you ever watch Shark Tank? You ever see Shark Tank? And they're like, all of them are like, I have a connection with Walmart. I have a connection with this. I have a connection. Like there's so many things that want to get on the shelf that if they take one thing off the shelf, like that's what I'm saying. These are things that we say and we're like, do you think the retailer's really going to, I think places like Walmart and Target are like, yeah, but we'll just empty that. Now I have 15 other things I'm going to line up right here. I don't know. I don't know the answer to it.
No. That's what I think they'll do too, but I think it could harm console gaming in terms of exposure and mindshare. And then weirdly move things more towards PC. Because again, you don't have that floor space. You don't have that, with the families and with the people who are just, going out for dinner and lunch, buying Christmas shopping or whatever. You don't have that necessarily the visual impact of all these games and consoles on the store shelves, right? Again, I don't know. I don't know what PlayStation has planned or how they. But
look at what else. Shout out real quick to Gaff in the chat. He says they don't need E3 anymore. That just kind of sparked something I was thinking about. We went from E3 where they had people on stage playing the games live. Now everything is scripted. Everything is already written down beforehand. Everything is already known, right? We've lost all that. You talk about through the years of gaming, what they've taken away from us. I understand. That's why I'm only sitting here saying that, geez, everyone I talk to in the community is always like playing the game at 12:01. Like when a game comes out, I look at all my friends' lists all the time, and at 12:01 a.m. Eastern, everybody's there. I know not everybody ran to Walmart, grabbed the physical copy, and got back in a minute. Right? So, like,
the only thing I would say to that, Mooch, though, is that while we don't have E3, the actual viewing figures for what we do have right now in terms of Summer Game Fest and the individual, state of play and Xbox Showcase, they actually have more viewing figures than E3.
I just meant the experience they took away from us. I don't mean the view. I don't mean the view. Yeah, the views. You're right. We've upscaled. That's great and great for gaming. But I'm saying to you, like, that whole E3, remember with the Sony with the musicians, and Xbox brought 3 players out to play those games on stage, and it was like, that was sick. Like, you were watching them play it, and you're like, I don't know, it just meant more than just when they, like, right now we're watching.
I had all my cousins round. We used to get takeaway. They used to sleep on the floor, dude. We should just crash out, just eating food, takeaway, watching all these shows. And I remember, like, E3 is at 2016, where it was like one of the fucking most memorable E3 is a PlayStation. We were just fucking going crazy, dude. Like, it was like we're watching. It's like our sports team won or something. Just so hype. So yeah, I do miss all that.
But how much do they keep pulling? That's my thing.
Right, that's the thing, right? So it's like I'm willing to roll. You roll with some of the changes, but they just keep taking and taking. Right, Wise? I'm right there with you. I'm way behind on super chats, and I appreciate all of them. I'm trying to keep, because I do want to talk a little bit about the Xbox situation with the studios, because that was, believe it or not, the beginning part of this week's news that was very big, and then this came out yesterday, and this has been a storm that's been a brewing. Shout out to Glassdoor. He says here, no, pardon me, I already read that. This is Bespoke. He says people have spoken with their wallets, and they chose digital. Steam's refund policy isn't done out of the goodness of their heart. They were forced to. So that's one of the things that's interesting that Bespoke says. PlayStation has a terrible policy in place right now. They need to, if they're going to go all digital, they really do need to take a look at Valve's approach to returns and refunds and take that a lot more serious. If they don't, they're going to get backlash, and rightfully so. So shout out to Bespoke. And DS said it earlier too. Glassdoor Gaming says, I look at Google Trends because it usually is more reflective of all society than social media with personalized algorithms. PlayStation didn't trend. Well, Glassdoor, this community, and it's got over 100 million views of that message on X. So people have seen it. It's out there. If it's not trending, I don't know, but it's definitely trending in our world. The OA says, and this is what I was saying earlier. Shout out to the OA. The OA must be someone I grew up down the road from. He goes, when will it be okay to go all digital and why? And I shout out to, I'm going to fast forward here just real quick to, was it Grandpa Barbecue Gamer? He says, Oh, shoot. I missed the one he wrote. Hold on one second, guys. Here it is. You all need to get over it. He says, I used to ride a dinosaur to school. Now I drive an electric car. Move with the times, people. Shout out to Grandpa. I appreciate that. Boy, there's a lot of super chats. We're way behind, guys. If you guys want to chat on any of these, let me know and I'll stop. I just want to get through some of them because these are some great points. Gaming Ledger says, Sony parent company is dropping the BD format. I think that plays a role here because, as others mentioned, Blu-rays are just not selling for TV and film. You know, someone said that the other day on X, and they said basically, you know, well, there's still, you know, all media has gone by the way of digital. And someone said, well, they're still making Blu-rays for movies. They are, but those numbers are declining. I'm with you, Ledger.
Well,
right?
The first thing in that, Mooch, is they got to get rid of the DVD format. They should have killed it years ago because people just keep buying the DVD version over the Blu-ray or the 4K. You know, like it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
The quality is the shits on DVD. I don't know why anybody still watches it. I guess they just don't care as much as me, but I can barely tolerate to watch a DVD movie these days. You know what I mean?
That's a great point, Noof. Yep, I definitely hear you. He's Ledger says, you guys ever want to switch your physical games while playing your Portal? That handheld is an ecosystem expansion play potential with digital. Yes, that is extremely true. Shout out to Ledger. Bespoke says, do people think Sony made the decision alone? He says pubs would have been begging for this. Publishers would have been. What about the emissions and waste from physical? If you make 10 discs and only 2 sell, what happens to the other 8? Well, you know, those are a couple of the things in the pie chart Bespoke that really we don't get into. I'm sure some of that played a role, but for me or anybody on a podcast to kind of stomp their feet and make a stance on that, then, you know, that's probably a smaller part of the pie, but I hear what you're saying. So OA said, you know, is Steam right then? That was when we were talking before with Slow-Mo. Glinster says, most movie fans watch at home and theaters, right? So, okay, Glinster, I see where you go with that. B-Light says, people are overreacting because going all digital is simply the next evolution of gaming, not the end of gaming. This is really a nothing burger. You know, B-Light, I don't think it's a nothing burger. I do think it's something. It is something. I also think it's something that is not going to get reversed. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying I don't want it to be reversed. I'm saying I don't think it'll be reversed. I think this is a long-term decision. Forte said it best when he said this is something that they wanted to put out now, well ahead of the PS6. They wanted this information to go out now. They don't want the PS6 to be looming at a launch and this come out. That's disastrous. It's absolutely disastrous.
I think they just want to get a gauge. People react before it's implemented.
Oh, so you think so, Nib? You think then that if it's a gauge, and I hear you, if it's a gauge, you're saying that a reversal is still on the table.
I don't know if it is or not, but certainly it would affect what other things they have in plan to facilitate this digital switch. Because remember, they haven't actually announced anything else. No better refund system, no stores covering, no third-party codes, none of that, right? So they've done the first thing without any of the other benefits that would typically be associated with digital. Even Xbox, we've heard rumors about them allowing some sort of physical to digital code transfer thing. You know, like you can switch your physical to a permanent digital code to allow that transition. So they haven't announced anything like that. I think that there basically might be a case of let's put this out there into the ether, see what kind of backlash we get, and then it will determine how far we have to push the other way. Do we have to go back on it? Can we add these other things that will satiate some of it, or etc.
Yeah.
But obviously they want to do the bare minimum if they can.
Shout out to Amex in the chat. He says, everyone buy a physical game this weekend. Amex, I'm with you. I will go buy Star Fox on Switch too. There, Amex, there you are.
I'm buying my Switch too, by the way.
Oh, are you?
I'm buying my Switch too tomorrow,
You'll enjoy it.
Mooch, let me say this too from your prior super chat.
Yeah,
I think this is endemic of the problem. Like you, me, everybody here on the panel here can remember a time where we went together to buy a game or some of these things that happened to us as we were growing up, as we were evolving as gamers. Like my kids have no connection to this. This guy probably also doesn't have any connections, and I think that's what they're counting on. I think they're counting on the apathy. And unfortunately, I think it's people like us who are seeing from the rafters. And unfortunately, I think they just don't care,
Yeah, no, I do. And like you said, a lot of people point the finger at a lot of people on the panel. This panel has been there since the days, like you said, Wise, when we used to go get, you had to run on a game launch. I'll never forget. I was so young. And you had to run to the video game section. Then you had to find on that wall of the tags hanging, grab the tag. That's because the tags were how many they had in stock. And when that pouch was empty, they were out of those games. We'd go grab that, and you had to run up there. Like you said, it was like the golden ticket, and ran up there. You put it on the counter. Of course, your mom or dad was there, or whoever, your guardian, and they paid. And it was friggin', you went home and like you said, you had the what do you call it, the instruction. That's the other thing. They take it so much away that you guys in the audience may or may not even know. The instructions and the guides that used to come in these games back with Nintendo were unbelievable. It was like a Wikipedia in text format.
If I can just tangent off this, right? Like, and I hate to be so pessimistic and depressing or whatever, but I do think this is honestly the first time in my life where on the eve of a new generation, I am so checked out. I'm so unexcited because like everything from like the potential death of
there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Insane eye-watering hardware prices and all this other stuff. And then in terms of policies, we already are moving to a live service MTX future and more nickel and diming and more DLC and premium shit locked behind this and that. And in every way, we kind of have just become they're nickel and diming us however they can. They're already making crazy profits. So it's not just about survival. They can try and say, oh yeah, the cost has gone up. I appreciate the cost has gone up, but you're also making record profits. So that the two don't correlate, right? And I don't have that excitement for this next generation anymore. And if anything, I'm almost like reconsidering things like this gaming is supposed to be this mutually beneficial thing, right? Yes, companies have always taken what they can, but we get enough from it in return that we're completely fine with it. But I feel like this is the first time, and it's not all gaming's fault, it's because of AI shortages, but I feel like it's the first time it's just they're taking too much away. And that balance of that, the relationship between consumer and platformer or whatever publisher is just, it's not there anymore. I don't think.
Do you think they're ever going to take away local storage of games?
I don't know, but it's going to be costly for them to do some sort of server thing, right? What you mean if they just transition to cloud or something? And
they just all transition to cloud. They say, well, these games are too big.
You'll be stuck in queues, right? Just like Xbox.
Well, they've taken it away. Might as well, right?
It's too busy right now. Fucking an hour or two. Like, can you imagine that shit? And then it's fucking glitchy and it will have shit like picture quality and image quality because they're throttling it while it's too busy on a Saturday night. Like, come on.
Heaven forbid if you do not buy a certain tier with their services,
exactly,
something like that. Your streaming.
Yeah.
Well, if they're taking everything else away, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the next shoe to fall. That's it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, just hold on. There's been gradual takeaway since decade after decade. So, it really is true. Shout out to Meth. He said, we had big box PC games before most were on PC. I remember that. It died with Steam. People said nothing. They're not PC gamers, just Steam fans using PC as a shield. I do remember that back in the day. PC games came in these big, monstrous boxes. I remember that being out there in the gaming stores. That's really, really cool. Meth, I see you there, buddy. I remember that. Not many people probably remember that. Danelle Browning says, Nib, so are you buying a PS6? And we both agree everything is going up in price. And then he goes a little bit, he goes into Danelle mode, and he said, let's just put it this way. He said everything is going up. I'll keep it.
I mean, as I said to him in the response, probably, but I'm actually giving it, there is second thought here. And if you told me before that I would ever have doubts, that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, to a degree, I'm like, actually, man, like, fuck, like, maybe I just stick with my PS5 for a bit and see how it all plays out.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that.
I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a piece of hardware and physical. I do not like that because I'm getting squeezed on two different fronts. And at least before, I could resell some of my physical games and buy games on impulse that I normally wouldn't buy, because I'm not one of those who buys 2-3 games a year. I'm buying like 25 plus games a year,
right?
And without the flexibility of physical, that's not really feasible or fair to the rest of my family.
So Shout out to Ernest Griffin in the chat. He said, Mooch, stop saying everybody. And I said, what do you mean by that? Because he just said it was very, that's all he put. He goes, everybody isn't buying Black Flag. People love speaking in absolutes to make their point. Ernest, I know not everyone is buying it, but whatever you feel on this side of the discussion, not everyone feels how you feel. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's a digital or physical guy. But my point being is Ernest, you know what I mean? But if you were here, you'd be like making your point, right? I was just making a point. I was a point to say, well, I want my older games because I want to own my older games, which is you're right. But many people, there you go, Ernest, that was for you. Many will still be buying older games that are remastered or remade. I know so many people in the community that are going to be buying Halo again. Right? But you own it already. So that's one of that was the point I was driving home, Ernest. It wasn't necessarily to say, yes, we say on this show all the time, never speak in absolutes. Nothing is 100%. Absolutely not. But that's where I was driving that from. I wanted to explain that to Ernest.
By the way, look at your poll, Mooch.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of people voted. 406 votes, 50-50. Hey, listen, I'll be honest with you, though, Nib, that doesn't surprise me. If you think that was... The reason it doesn't surprise me, really, though, is because the community, the hardcore gamer, which listens to these podcasts, not just this podcast, but many in gaming, we are traditional. I still will go buy a physical copy of a game from time to time. I just made the point earlier in the show to say, and J-Dub and I were going back and forth talking about it before the show, was that one of the emphases on digital that they really kind of move people over for was the family sharing, right? Or I'm calling it family sharing, whatever each of the, I'm not talking about just Valve, I'm talking about PlayStation, Xbox. Yeah. So if you have a brother or a cousin or a sister and they're in Florida and you're in New York and they're in, Wisconsin and you're in North Dakota, and now you're like, we're gamers, we grew up together. You have one account buying one game and you're sharing it digitally. If you're only believing in physical, now you bought 2 copies. So they've kind of just worn us into this digital comfort zone. And are there a lot of caveats and like a lot of shit that can go wrong? Absolutely. I think Nib and DS really preached it, and you were right. But there's also a lot of comfort and I would say convenience with digital. And anytime there's convenience, look at DoorDash. Look at DoorDash. Everybody complains at the price of food right now. Everybody. And you have every right to. It's expensive as hell. But
so
guess what? But guess what, Nib? People don't mind paying 35. Nib, they don't mind paying 35% over the expensive price of the food for the convenience of having it brought to their home. They're taking fast food, which is already faster than cooking at home, and they want it faster.
But what portion of the populace is doing that, though?
Well, it's enough to keep them in business and Melio and a bunch of others. There's more than one.
Yeah, I mean, it's profitable, no doubt. But
well, that's what I'm saying. So
this is the thing: is gaming going to be a mass consumer hobby, or is it going to be a consumer even smaller percentage of the luxury market that is willing to fork out these ever increasing costs? Because
good.
It seems like it's going in the latter direction to me.
What do you mean?
As in, like, it's becoming more and more luxury thing, whereas back in the day, the sort of the design ethos of it was that it would be such mass market appeal, hundreds of millions of people, etc. Mm-hmm. And consoles always wanted to kind of increase that install.
That's right.
But now it seems like actually we're okay with a lower install as long as we just make more money from everyone in that install.
Well, I mean, so I know exactly what you're saying. I don't know. Think about it this way, Nib. If that's the progression you think we're going in, PlayStation 4 rounded out roughly at around 117 million at the end of the generation. I think after GTA 6 comes out, I think PS5 is going to beat that number. They're also saying they're making more money. They're also selling more games. So are they going in the wrong direction?
No, I think with this one they will, but remember, like, in terms of the pricing and AI stuff, I'm talking will PS6, because they won't have that flexibility anymore, of launching a console at $400 or whatever. Like, so next generation, I think, is where they start saying, okay, we need to, well, I believe they're trying to recalibrate to just a more of a high margin business that takes from a few instead of the masses, because they know they can't necessarily get that unit out to the masses. And it really worries me, because I don't want to be a pay pick. I don't want to be an increasing pay pick for this hobby, which is already, I feel, sometimes teetering.
Yes. B Money says they're okay. Shout out to B Money, by the way. B, we got to get you back on the show. B says they're okay with a lower install because those are the spenders, that's exactly what Nib's saying. Nib's saying there'll be less people, but then he and I and others will end up having to pay more to enjoy the hobby. Yeah. You know,
there's one thing to ask your consumer base $500 to play your exclusive content, and then there's an entirely different story altogether to ask your consumer base $1,200.
That's right, or even $1,000.
Yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of, and I think Nib said it perfectly. Like it's not us who are making these profits; it's the average soccer mom going into GameStop saying, "Hey, my kid wants a video game console." Well, I'll tell you this much, with the price of things going what they are right now, if these consoles come out at $1,200 a pop, they are losing that in droves. And I think if it's a family of four who is trying to budget in this economy and their child is like, I want a $1,200 box just to play video games, I guarantee you mom and dad is going to probably buy them a laptop. They're probably going to need one for school anyways and say you can play your games on that. And see, this is the problem. I think that people are not realizing.
Shout out real quick to
I agree 100%.
Real quick, I want to shout out to Bespoke. He said, well, I'll read this, but Bespoke, be careful and be very kind to DS. He says, DS, did Gabe buy you a yacht or something? Well, if he did buy DS a yacht, I'm waiting for my invitation. I can't wait.
No, he didn't.
Well, he did not. There you go. Thank you for clarifying that, DS. Blessed Red says PC gaming is the future. Shout out to Blessed. Well, Blessed. Blessed, you don't have to start your sentence like that. We know how you feel, Blessed. He says, actually own your digital games. Sony rumored for another PlayStation Plus price hike, by the way. PS5, my last console for sure. Blessed, I'll see you on PS6. Shout out to Blessed Red. Gaming Forte says, love you, Mooch. Same for everyone else. For the great Gaming Forte, everybody. Isn't he fantastic? We miss Forte. This is JC 2013. He says, I buy most of my games physical, so this sucks. JC, I saw that. I know this is bothering you, buddy, and I appreciate you being here. Black Metal Gamer says, if a game's too pricey, wish list and wait on fat sales. That's what I'm saying. I was just going to say that to Nib, because Nib was definitely right in his concerns, and I get how he's feeling, especially Nib buys a lot of games. So I get that he's like, don't take advantage of me because I buy games. You know what I mean? So I'm with Nib on this. But I will tell you this much, Nib. You know, there's a lot of games that are out. We don't have to pay full price. You know, we don't have to pay full price. Wait till the game goes on sale in the store. I mean, he's got a point.
You know, even on that front, right? Physical is so reliable like that, because you know after a set period of time, you're kind of guaranteed to get a lower price. So you can kind of structure around that. But when you're stuck to the behest of PSN or Xbox or whatever, it's just whenever they fucking fancy doing a sale. Do you know what I mean? Like, you may end up waiting a long time. Like, it's one of those things. Like, you know, like someone was saying earlier, apparently, you know, God of War Ragnarok or whatever is still $70. I know it has been cheaper, but it may not be cheaper when you actually want to buy it, you know? So it's just one of those things. Am I going to have to fucking constantly track this stuff? You know, here's the list of games that I didn't buy day one and I want to buy.
The thing is, what's funny is, Steam is already tracked. Every single sale is already tracked. You could look it up right now. Every Steam sale for 2026, and they have the exact dates or near enough rough dates, because they run on a cycle, right? They do it every single year. And they do it generally around the same exact time. So people can go, oh, I know exactly when this sale's coming. And not only that, they increase the number of sales they're doing now on Steam.
No, I don't mean when the sale is, because PlayStation has similar, and so does Xbox. I mean which games will go on sale.
Oh, right. I was on about... Well, even then, the sale is still a bit worse than, obviously, Steam. But then it's like Steam is literally everything that publishers want on sale. It's like, oh, well, if Square Enix decides all their games need to be on sale, all their games will be on sale. And the best part is, not only that, you can now compete for prices, because Loaded and Green Man and all these, they have sales at the same time. So I go to, let's say I go to Fanatical, I look up how much was Rebirth, right? I looked at price of Rebirth, and then I was like, okay, what's the price on Steam? Okay, what's the price on CD keys? Okay, what's the price on? And then it's like, oh, this one's 10 cheaper.
Yeah, at the moment, I just say I want a game, I'll just stick it in, and then I'll put UK at the end, right? So, I don't know, I've already bought 007, but let's just say 007 First Light, PS5 UK, and generally Google show every store in the UK, like online store, etc., that has it, and with a click of a button, you know which is cheapest, right? And 99% of the time, a physical or online store has it much cheaper than the digital cost, right? There's only a few rare instances, and it's just weird that if it goes digital only, I won't even have that route. I'm not going to have this massive.
Also, another bonus is stores like Loaded, right? Because it's like, for example, this is something else. PlayStation needs multiple storefronts for competition because it's like, for example, day one games, right? Day one, they'll mandate you pay 80 or 70, and you will have to pay that 70, right? Whereas on Steam, for example, when Forza Horizon 6 launched, the Ultimate Edition was 120. I was like, that's a bit steep for my boots. Went on to Loaded, day one, on launch, by the way, pre-order, in fact. I only paid 80 for the Ultimate Edition of Forza Horizon 6, day one.
No, a similar thing with me. I complained about Forza Horizon. Fuck is this shit? They put the price.
But the thing is, it's like I got Elden Ring and Dying Light 2, both games for 90. It should have cost 120, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like these are stuff you could do with digital.
Hey,
right?
DS,
but
how long is the
storefronts willing to do it?
DS, how long is the summer sale going for? July what?
I don't know. I think it's still on. I think it's a week.
I thought it was another. Is it? That's longer than a week, isn't it?
I think it's. I think it is longer.
I thought it was like
to Mooch to Xbox's credit.
Yeah,
Loaded carries codes for Xbox as well.
Oh, I know.
Because I actually, based on the advice of the public, I went on Loaded and I got my upgrade, my premium upgrade for Forza Horizon 6. I think it was like 30 something pounds instead of it should like 50 or 60. So fair play. Like at least I was able to do that. I couldn't do that on PlayStation.
Also,
I'd have to use a top-up voucher.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's there's another 6 days. Yeah, it finishes July 9th.
Okay, thank you.
But then also it's like, see, now if PlayStation gets forced into having to give other people digital codes, it could get to the point that sites like Loaded can stock digital codes of PlayStation games. Now, this is big for your PlayStation consumer, because if you can get the games like 10, 15 cheaper, that's just nothing but a benefit to you, even though you're locked in. And so, I mean, hopefully that goes through.
No, I would like, listen, if this is the digital world we're going in, I'm right there with you, DS, because I listen, a lot of times I end up just buying on Steam, but I do check Loaded. And if it's something that really I think is worthwhile, if sometimes it's like, if the game is $69.99 on Steam and I go to Loaded and it's $65.99, I'm not gonna lie to you, I buy it on Steam. Just because the hassle sometimes with the email, and the email doesn't come right away, and if it's the night before and it doesn't come at 12:01, I just buy it on Steam. Now, if Loaded has it for, maybe $59 or a deeper sale, I'm there for that. So I'm right there with you on that. I got a couple more super chats here, and I do want to move over to the Xbox closing. And Noof, I know you have to leave soon, Noof, but we will. I really wanted to get your take on some of the Xbox stuff. If you have a few minutes left with you, shout out to Benevolent Icon. I think it may even be Econ. Not sure. Question: if they do not get rid of discs for PS6, when are they allowed to go all digital? PS7, if not PS6, then when? So. Benevolent, we talked about this basically the first few minutes. I brought that up. I said the nib. I said I was watching Mystic Ryan was watching some shows, and they were like, we thought the PS7 would be this era, right? So the point that I was trying to bring home was, I think everybody was like, again, hold on, as I was told, not everybody. A lot of people were thinking the PS7 was going to go all digital, right? But you would have got this same backlash. So Benevolent, I'm with you on that. This is happening now versus 7 years from now. But regardless, I think it was written on the wall. Broman from the 5th, he says 8 tracks, cassettes, CDs all became digital. VHS, DVDs, Blu-rays all are digital. Physical media will naturally go digital. Tech moves forward eventually. Yeah, bro, man, you're with me. That's what I was saying earlier. I lived through everything you've mentioned. No longer here. And when you move, I have a wall behind me of NES games, SNES games. I've lost games in the times I've moved as a child to now, but I still have my original ones from back in the day. But I've lost some. That's another thing. I've lost a lot of games. You move as a kid here, then you move over there, then you move over here, then you move, even as an adult, you pack everything up and you move it over here and you move it over there. I've lost games. So, and that's stuff that when it's physical, again, we don't talk about it. It's a small census. But when you went through those generations, those decades of physical media, these are things that happen. 07, now shout out to 07. He says, I've bought every PlayStation console since day one. PS5 will be my last PlayStation I buy unless they reverse course. Mind you, I probably buy 100 games a generation. Sony will lose all that. Nib is right. Well, 07, listen, do me a favor, okay? We're probably a year and change away from the PS6. I'll tell you right now, never speak in absolutes that I'll see on PS6. Shout out to Grandpapa Barbecue. He says, Panasonic and Sony about only ones, who still make Blu-ray players. Physical movies will also go by the way of the dodo bird. He says, gotta move with the times. Shout out to Grandpa Barbecue, Game Cat, what a name. It's me, the broke boy. He says, what does getting rid of my physical games do to GameFly? Well, the same thing it's going to do to like GameStop, same kind of idea. Gaming Ledger says GameStop should rename to Funk Pop and Collectibles. Gaming Ledger. Yeah, we were talking about that with Forte. Glassdoor Gaming says retailers have bigger worries like Amazon. Shout out to Babor. He says some of these guys, PlayStation derangement syndrome. If you want to lend your cousin the game, digital game share is the answer. Complaint for no effing reason. PlayStation is popular in all corners. But Babor, listen, the mighty will always and can always fall. So you say that today as the market leader, but things can shift. And when, like Nib said, if you keep on taking away, Babor, you're talking today, not in future tense. 07 says people spoke with their wallets and most of the revenue is from live service. No more single player games. Glassdoor says how many of those 100 million X views own a PS5? That's fair. Not all of them, of course, Glassdoor. Grandpa Barbecue is back. He says, why was there not this much vitriol when Nintendo started bringing out a game code in a box? There was. I know there were complaints, but not like this. Well, no, because, guys, help me out here with the Nintendo thing. Can you guys let me know? There is the game code that's on like that empty card, the key card. But it was a palpable thing in the Nintendo community. People were up in freaking arms as to what they were doing. So, I mean, if you did not hear anything about it was probably you did not, just frequent those communities. But me being an avid Nintendo gamer, people were up in arms and they were already talking about the Nintendo apocalypse and stuff. They're like, all these games are going to be on key cards going forward, blah, 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 blah. And Nintendo had to come out and sort of say, no, these are just some of these games that we're doing, whatever, for price reasons as well. But yes, there was a big uproar back in the day when they first announced it. Yo, shout out to Liquid. Liquid, I'm going out of order. I have a couple before Liquid, but Liquid, he goes, Liquid speaking my language. He says, I've been digital for a while, but I get it. It's some people who want that choice. That's what I'm saying. I'm there. Like a lot of people think I'm not defending it. I'm kind of in slow-mo's camp too. Like I just moved to digital primarily around 2017. I mean, I didn't write it down. I wasn't like today is the day. But like
the thing is,
I moved over, so I you know what I mean, Nib? You didn't. Nib, you stayed.
The physical game I bought was Horizon Forbidden West, and that will be the last physical game I'll ever buy because I remember I paid $300 for that game, and I realized that Sony sold me a robotic elephant. And not even.
I have a question for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys just buy like 30, 40 digital games a year?
30.
Or however many. 20, 15, 20, I don't know.
I buy a lot of games a year. I guess I never really counted, but I mean, I've I don't know. I guess you could say 20 to 30. I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's the thing for me. Like, I couldn't justify buying, 20, 30, 40 games that are digital because I know I'm not going to replay most of those games, right? And that's why, for me, this whole physical conversation is not just about, like, people say it's performative. It's not. It will actually change the very way that I consume and play games. Because I'm not going to buy 30, 40 fucking digital games. No, I'm not. And right now I do buy that many games because some of them I just resell, right? And with that money, I just buy more games. And games I'm not even that.
Nib, can I ask you a question, though? What about I know you have a younger family, but let's fast forward 5 to 7 years from now. Again, going into PS7 territory, right? And you wanna play a game and your son wants to play that same game. And now you're saying what you're saying today because you go buy the physical disc and then you're like, hey, come over here, son, play this. And he comes over for a few minutes, he plays, he's like, that's cool, Dad. And then he walks away. What about when he's gaming like full time? Like you buy it digitally and then his PS6 and your PS6, you're playing it together, one purchase. I think your tune changes a bit.
No, because I would never buy my son 20, 30 games a year. I think that would be
No. I understand that, but when 5 games, 7,
yeah, for 5 games maybe, but
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why we always say never speak in absolutes because there's so many different scenarios for different families. And you have a family, I have a family, but our families are different in age. But like now when my kids want something on their PlayStation, it's like I buy it, they can play it. Right? It's like I don't have to buy it twice. If you buy the physical disc, you know what I mean? It's like if you're playing it, are you going to stop, hit the eject button, hand it to your kid, and then go read a book?
No, but even right now, we don't play simultaneously. So he obviously has his own account. You can play physical games that you've bought on separate accounts, right? So what ordinarily would happen is I just, either don't play the game, or if he's playing a different system, like if he's playing the PS5, I'll play on my Series X.
Right, but there's a compromise there, like in anything else.
Yeah, there's a compromise. Like, I haven't bought a second PS5, nor would I want to, because I think I'm not judging anyone who does do this, but I never wanted to be so engrossed by gaming that
I understand.
There's like multiple people in the household just clocked out, Like if it got to that stage,
I was just gonna say,
because if it got to that stage, I'd be like, all right, son, if we literally can't, like you're gaming and I have to game at the same time.
Yeah.
I'd rather just turn both systems off and let's go have a conversation. Let's go play in the park.
I hear you. But Blaze, welcome to the show, buddy. Where are you on all this, buddy? What's happening?
I mean, this is big news. I just want to say what up to everybody. What up, JW, Dust Singer, everybody here. I've been digital for 2 generations. It's been like that due to game sharing because I think it was such a dope feature. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? Hey, you buy a game, I buy a game, you buy a game. But see, this hits home for I don't know what side Nib's on, but my kid since the PS4, he's been collecting physical games. Like that was a thing. I would take him to GameStop or whatever Christmas. It was just more exciting for me to give him a game than say, here's a $60 PSN card, buy what you know what I mean? So he's built this little library up and it's like, damn, man, like
that's
so the PS6 comes, he's gonna have these discs, and what is he gonna do, brother?
So let me tell you. So Blaze, because Eric, the producer, of course, wanted me to reiterate this. This is not the same thing, buddy. But like once your son puts the code in and he has it, they are. I know you're gonna laugh when I say this, but they are. Sony said it. They're still gonna sell the actual. Like if you can still go to the store, it's a digital code inside, but you can keep getting the case. So if he has that case built up, like I don't. Yes. He still can build that. I'm using your example only. Other people listening to this right now are like, that's not the same thing. I know it's not the same thing. But what I'm saying to you is he can still continue to do that. They're still going to have the retail casing available, cards. Right? So, it's going to be a code inside of it instead. But like if you said he has this wall of PS5 and he's going to have a wall of PS6, they said they're still going to do that. That's not going to make the audience happy. But in your particular case, once your son has the game, whether it be physical disc or the code installed on his console, he's good. So he just wants to have that row still going, which I don't like. That's a great example because I was actually going to bring it up earlier in the show. I was like, does anybody care about the fact that they're having a retail box still available? But I think people do care. Blaze, I don't know if you were listening, but Forte was just on here. He said people were coming in and pre-ordering or asking about the pre-order of the GTA 6 box. And he said, listen, bro, he goes, it's just a code in there. Go home and order it. He goes, no, I want the fucking box. You know, they want the box. So the box does hold some weight, right? So I get that. I don't know if that would satisfy that kind of relationship thing you've built with your son, but it's all that's going to be left. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I don't know.
But my thing, Mooch, is my kid is now going to have to keep a PS5 on handy to play 4 and 5.
Yes.
He's going. Blaze, that's such a great point because I was going to sell my PS5. This shit is gonna.
Yeah, I'm not selling
$1,000.
I'm not selling
and
this
now
anymore.
I have to keep my PS5. Fuck that shit, bro. Then I might not even get a PS6. It's a weird thing because I think most people
really the PS5 is going to jump in value because now it plays 2 generations of games on disc.
Exactly.
And for people that like collect, listen, me and Mooch. We're on Steam too, just like JW. A bunch of people are on Steam. So we've been buying digital. Digital all fucking day. But as gamers, this is a console space. This is normalized for consoles. You buy a physical game, brother, options is always better.
Absolutely.
No one should be screaming that, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. I get it. It doesn't affect me, but it affects my kid. It affects someone else. All I'm saying is options is always better. And especially
I'm very anti-digital only for consoles.
Format, brother.
Yeah.
Mooch, you own the pizza spot. Hey, buddy, mozzarella's out. Yeah, we're not giving all like, what the fuck? You own mozzarella? Blaze, you make it.
Blaze, I'm right there with you. Like I was saying this, I think you were listening to the show. I've grown up through the generations, buddy, where we lost the cassette tape, right? We lost the VHS, we lost the Blu-ray player. Yeah. We've lost all this physical media. Hear me out. My question for you that I asked Nib when we started the show 3 hours ago was this. Hear me out. I said, what generation of console were you like not okay with it, but you were like, I knew this was going to happen? Wasn't it the PS7? You were like, I think that's when it's going to go all digital.
Yeah, so I did say it. I told Jack this.
Yeah,
but Blaze, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind me asking, about your kid, because I got 2 boys myself, and I did the same thing. But both my boys are grown. My youngest is now 18, and he doesn't value any of that crap. So I don't know. I mean, is your kid a little bit younger, Skew? That's why
he's 12, and I have a huge game room. Listen, just because I'm 2 generations in digital, I have a whole game room full of PS3, Xbox One, PS2, PS1, and these are some games. PS Vita, I have damn near the whole library, everything's sealed. I got a huge collection of memorabilia when it comes to gaming and physical games. So he knows when I tell my kid, hey, if something happens to dad, this is all yours. He's over here looking for a knife. But my thing is, he likes that traditional view of gaming. Like you get a box, you collect it, you have your own, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say try to preserve that as long as you can, because those a-holes across the hallway, they don't value any of it. My 2 boys, you think so? No, they don't have any value of it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit more in Wise's camp, where like my kids, like everything is just digital to them. Like they if I bring home like a disc, they're like, they think it's a coaster. Like I'm like, it's like it. But no, Blaze, you were saying though, you and Jack were talking. Like my point is, and I want to hear your story. It's inevitable, right? So the angst you're seeing and the anger, which is rightfully so, right now, that was going to happen. Either PS6, PS7, PS8, something, coming. Right? It's coming. And we talked about that. We've been saying this on this show. We weren't even talking about this subject. We're like, oh, we have to assume PS7 will be all digital. Right? We're in the middle of a conversation. I think we've said it when we were Twitch streaming. We were like, 7 will be digital. I mean,
everybody's going to say I called it, but brother, this is just the time we're in, bro. This shit's coming. Anybody can see this coming. I mean, it's slipping away.
Again, I don't disagree with that, but with the data and the numbers currently have, again, I'm saying, obviously, I understand live service games.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're saying, Nib, with the data, with the
physical
yes, with the data we have, it's too high right now.
Just drop it.
I agree, and I agree with you, buddy. Listen, if they reverse it tomorrow, I'll be the first one to be clapping, and I'll light a match. Like I'm there for it. Like don't take any of it away. I miss all that shit. I've just come to the conclusion now, like Blaze was saying, between Steam and between even PlayStation, because I have family share. Like, I buy the digital now because if the kids are going to play it on their monitors in their rooms, well, I'm not buying 3 copies. Like, I'm buying one, and because a lot of times, and don't get me wrong, a lot of it's multiplayer. A lot of it is multiplayer. So Nib, you said that earlier too, right? So when I'm playing these multiplayer games that I'm buying the digital copy for sure because I'm not going to buy 3 of them. And sometimes we're playing at the same time, just kind of messing around. So like, it is one of those situations where it's like, it does, but Blaze, you said it affects every family differently, right? Or every person differently. So that's why I didn't come on the show and be like, no, you have to think this way. There is no right way to think. Everyone's family's affected differently with this. The only thing I've been saying is that whether it's the game share, it's the fact that everything else I own right now, people, Blaze, me and you talk about with Lazy all the time. I use Apple Music. You guys use Spotify. And all we talk about how great it is, right? We don't own shit. It's all rented. Yeah. Like, that's even worse. They're saying here you own a code.
Brother, those cartridges, someone's saying Nintendo's, brother, Nintendo, those cartridges are more money to produce than CDs. Eventually, they will follow suit, brother. I'm telling you.
You're not wrong.
Look, I was more upset about the Vita and the PS3 store. Now I know what the fuck, bro. My PS3 is still plugged in. It's not plugged in. You know what I mean? Like, dude's got a PS3 and there's no my lights right there. When I hit it, it goes on. All I'm saying, and I'm not over here browsing the PS3 store, like, but all I'm saying is, well, I mean, how much money could it be for you to keep this shit up?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I know Sony already bent it. I know they already bent the knee a couple years back, and they said, we'll fall back. We'll leave these services running for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it's time. It is what it is. But it's just the end of an era, Mooch. That's what it is, brother.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'll fight the good fight with you guys. You guys want? I'll pick you up a pitchfork right now. Let's go. The thing is, I don't think this is getting reversed. That's I from what I'm reading,
they're getting PR bodied right now. We'll see.
They are, but
they are getting bodied. Like,
these decisions, this kind of decision.
I've never actually seen anything. If I'm really honest,
if you
haven't they gone radio silent on Twitter for like 2 days?
They have. It's the longest they've ever gone radio silent now.
No, they just did this, I guess, with the
72 hours was the previous record.
72 hours of the previous one. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing companies that have nothing to do with gaming going after them now. Like,
there's literally dozens, dude.
Dunks on you, man. When
like even
Burger King, fucking Pete Domino's.
I saw GitHub doing it. I saw all kinds of things.
Everyone is, dude.
So wait, let me ask the panel. Let me ask the panel real quick because I've said I'll start with Blaze. I'll go right down. Just yes, you can add. I'm saying yes or no. If you guys want to add some context, please do. Blaze, do you think it gets reversed? I don't know if Blaze stepped away. Blaze probably
no.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. All right. Death Singer, do you think it gets reversed?
No.
JW here? The Jay's the one that stepped away. I was looking to see. Nib, do you think it gets reversed?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think if they don't reverse it though, it's going to hurt PlayStation big time.
So you think that's probably a no.
I hope I'm wrong, Mooch, but I don't think so.
No, I'm not. This isn't what you want. I asked you, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to share this, but, producer Eric.
Oh, yeah, producer Eric.
I haven't vetted this person, so I can't speak. If this doesn't pan out, then all of you judge Eric, not me. But he says, like, there's some Sony employee who gives him information and that he's been reliable in the past.
Okay.
Apparently, he's saying that they are considering reverting it because the backlash has been so extreme.
Oh, if they revert it, that would be spectacular, and everyone should appreciate gamers for standing up.
Absolutely. I said it. Shout out to there was Amex. I know. I don't think so. Shout out to Amex in the chat. Was like, everybody go buy physical. I'm like, you know what? I'll go buy Star Fox on Switch 2 this weekend. All right. That's for Amex. I'm doing it for him. Shout out to J-Rod. He says the next evolution of console gaming is being charged a monthly fee to access your purchases. Can't wait. LFG. He's kidding, of course. Grandpa Barbecue Game Cat is back. He says, for the record, I purchased Crimson Desert on disc. Thank you for that, Grandpa. I appreciate the inside. We read Liquid Tada's. I appreciate that. He said PlayStation has some tada that says more people have been buying digital, in my opinion. He also said he's been digital for a while, but he gets it that people want their choice, and I agree. Glinster says more carnivores than vegans, no more vegan food. Glinster, that's a terrible analogy, but Glinster, nonetheless, thank you.
No, but I think he's saying is
I know what he means
with the conversation we were having, because live service is predominantly digital and makes most of the revenue. Should we just ignore physical on single player tentpole games?
Absolutely.
And stop producing single player games?
I think that question though, Nib, is absolutely not right. We should not ignore that. But the thing is that
no, we shouldn't. Yeah.
But the thing is,
that's what PlayStation is kind of saying. What they're saying is, because everything's so digital on this side of the aisle, we don't need physical on this side, which is actually heavily, which I think is really bad. Like, it's really slippery and disingenuous of PlayStation. Just a lot of things they're doing right now, it rubs me the wrong way, honestly. And we did say, like, lack of competition, this is what it breeds. It's kind of almost a bit predictable, because whenever your competition is stumbling, the bravado hits and complacency hits, and you take too much advantage, and then you end up pushing back and going the opposite way. But they need to be humbled right now, I think.
That's actually well put. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But the question, well, I guess we'll find out. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Mooch, how awesome would it have been if Xbox said, hey, going forward, we're still going to have physical games, and then they basically pull a Sony reverse.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have helped them out so much, man.
Blaze,
I'm telling you, man.
Blaze,
the brand knew what the fuck they were doing.
But the thing is, though,
I think the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that PlayStation timed this news what they thought would be the precipice of Xbox's closures and layoffs and stuff. So it's like, it will get drowned out. Don't worry, But Xbox hasn't announced anything yet, so it's just been festering. Yeah,
PlayStation must know that they're going digital.
I was just going to say to you, but you guys got to remember something. All the backlash from 2013 and the DRM that everybody was in. Xbox wants this more than PlayStation. Xbox has wanted this since 2013. Like, Xbox is not going to come out and be like, we'll give you a physical disc. They can't believe that PlayStation stepped in front of the bullet. They're like, that's great.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Xbox has far more reason to do this than PlayStation. Because Xbox has significantly less physical sales than PlayStation. But PlayStation
anything like this tonal deaf, that would be something that I would expect Xbox to announce first anyway. So I was kind of surprised that PlayStation took the bullet first time.
Doesn't Xbox, the one thing, so this is the other thing. Shout out to I can't remember which article I read this. The Series S, everyone's like, you said what you said, and you're like, oh, Xbox would come out and be like a superstar. The Series S outsold the Series X. The Series S was all digital. Nobody said anything. Xbox buys more digital games, don't they?
But it was significantly cheaper, though. Keep in mind.
Yeah, but no. Right now, Nib, you said you'd pay more for a physical disc because you understand that it costs more. You're like, I would pay more for that.
No, but I mean the actual console was much cheaper than the Series X.
It is, but it was also all digital. Like that's a
casual people who just play your live service games. Again, they're going to buy those live service games.
That's also, I think, when you look at that, you magnify that from now the Series S throughout all consoles. You'll see that those casual gamers you're talking about are the reason they're dictating the digital sales. And that's why those numbers...
then what's happened is you alienate the enthusiast core market, right? Who does buy those single-player tempo games and is more invested in... And weirdly enough, they are usually actually the early adopters for new generations.
Yeah, but see, by Xbox having a Series S and at a cheaper price point, isn't that squeezing your customer into a digital-only front?
No, because then you still have the option... or a disc version, right?
Yeah, the option.
We're already talking about options. It's fine if PlayStation wants to prioritize digital.
The option was there, but Series S being fully digital, it just shows you that Xbox wanted to go fully digital.
No, of course, they want to incentivize people to go in that direction.
They put the better price point, right? They put the better price point with what they were saying was a capable machine with no disk drive.
Yeah, correct. To cut costs, right?
Right. So my whole thing is I'm just saying, Microsoft
PlayStation cutting costs.
Are they cutting
Are
costs?
digital games? No, of course not. They're going to be raising them, if anything.
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if next gen games are more expensive.
Xbox didn't make their games cheaper either.
No.
But I'm saying, like, no, they're not. Neither of them are cutting their costs. The Series S was cheaper on multiple fronts, not just because they took the disc drive out.
Yeah, everything, like the hardware, the SSD,
hardware, the whole thing.
The idea was, look, if you want a cheap game, if you want a cheap device, and maybe you're not one of those enthusiast gamers that is going to buy all these physical games or whatever, collect them. You just want to, for these few games, then buy this device, right?
Right.
I don't know about the splits. I've heard varying different. I've heard some people say it's 50-50. Some people say, Series X has been outselling it in the last 2 years. But obviously, like, I don't know where the real number, but it's still a significant portion own the Series S, and that doesn't surprise me. Like, it's just like there's not that many Xboxes out there in general. It's like, what, 35 million or something?
35 million, but the majority are S's.
Yeah.
And so
I don't like that for certain, but yeah,
no,
large number.
That is true. There's more S's out there than X's. So, like, you can look that up, Nib. You have, like, numbers all over the place.
But there's a lot of, like, disagreement on that. Let's just put it that way. Like, it's we don't have any hard numbers, right? We don't really have even estimates to work from Sakana and GSD, things like that. We just haven't had anything for a long time. Yeah, it's true. They haven't really reported, but a lot of outlets run with that notion. I'll tell you that much. But anyways, yeah. But I think they run with it because early on in the generation, when we were getting splits, it was lopsided to the Series S. But the reason I'm a bit like apprehensive to use those splits is because I remember early on, because of COVID shortages, you couldn't actually get a Series X because I sold my Series S and I had to sell it below retail. Whereas the Series X, because I got the Halo edition, the Series X I sold for like 150 quid above asking. That's how much harder it was to get the Series X versus the Series S. So I think part of it selling more might have just been availability. Yeah. No, that's true. Listen, speaking of that, though, I did want to get to the other subject. We literally did 3 hours on one subject. Not that I'm surprised at all. But anything you guys want to add on because we did transfer over to disc. You guys brought it over to Xbox with the disc situation. Xbox confirms to Bloomberg that it has pulled out of the IO Interactive Project Fantasy's new IP. Also, you have insider claiming no one is safe when it comes to Xbox layoffs and studio closures. And the studios that are up there for negotiation to not be closed and maybe have independence or compulsion: Ninja Theory, Double Fine, Arcane Lion, and Undead Labs. So, I mean, this was the news before PlayStation went out there and was like, "Hey, let me shoot myself in the foot." So, I don't know. What do you think about anything on this front that you guys, Blaze? Anything on this? I mean, this is a lot. That's a lot of. One of the things that they said, Blaze, that Game Pass and what Xbox was going to bring this generation was a tremendous amount of studios to keep Game Pass filled and bloated, right? Well, now you get rid of Compulsion, you get rid of Ninja Theory, Double Fine, Arcane Lion, Undead Labs. There was articles out, Blaze, that said a few weeks ago that basically if you're not making a Fallout or you're not making an Elder Scrolls, right, or a Halo, that you're not. It's not that you're gone, but you're not safe. So. And this is all, from insiders and leaks, etc. But like at this point, like if Xbox loses those teams and some other smaller teams, I mean, they've got the backing of Bethesda's big team there, and they've got, of course, Activision. But
Bethesda and Activision haven't been on the highest fucking horse. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. I agree. I agree. I don't think they've been hitting on full cylinders at all recently. Now, there's going to be some people in the chat that are always like, come on, Mooch, Doom was great.
Its software is different.
It is different, right? But even the last Doom didn't do great.
Right.
It maybe didn't do awful, but it didn't do the numbers I think they wanted. Indiana Jones didn't do great. Starfield's a question mark, right? I think Starfield did fine, but I don't think it did expectations.
They must have done something right because they were allowed to make a DLC
for Doom.
And
they also had shitloads of layoffs as well. So
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
I don't know. It's
so frustrating because it's like, You got this fucking arrogant Sony over here doing all this shit, and you just want Xbox to like fucking do well, and so they can be real competition. But you know, they're if anything like just squandering it and doing an abomination of management, right? Like, look at the kind of reporting that's coming out. How many potential studios could be affected? It's like 6 or 7 studios that they've acquired or something. And we're talking, you know, from the potential rumors about, you know, thousands of people being laid off. That's in addition to over 4,000 that's already been laid off in 2 years. So what the fuck is this? Like, it's a level of mismanagement and sort of I don't know, say missed targets that supersedes anything that we've seen from anyone. Like, and it's really depressing because if they make those cuts to all those potential studio closures as well, that is going to affect our future output and the kind of games those studios make. That the rumors are that they're going heavy on the big ticket tentpole games, and they're not going to do so much of these sort of smaller deviations and things like that, which is again sad. Like for us as gamers, like some of the best games they've made this generation were those sort of deviations, and I honestly think those games would have done better under a different platform with better marketing and no Game Pass sales cannibalization.
Yes. Absolutely, I agree with that. But speaking of Game Pass, this kind of affects it a bit, doesn't it? So we're hearing a lot of the third-party deals they had have been frozen. I'm not saying that it's not the end of Game Pass. I think a restructure is en route, even more than we've seen. But now you have these teams that if they let these teams go that were making these games, you know, 1 or 2 games a year, well, now those are gone, and now you're down to just Bethesda making their big games like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, but those take 4 or 5 years each, right? And then you have, you know, Activision puts out Call of Duty. So, I mean, they went from like, look at all these teams we have that can pump out games left and right to, well, they're dropping like flies if these are all going to be leaving Microsoft's, right? If they leave Microsoft's window. So I don't know. I think a restructuring of Game Pass, they may do the tiers where you can choose again. I think the day and date thing is timed. I don't think that's going to last much longer.
I agree.
Maybe a year, maybe another year they'll do it. I don't know what the time frame looks like, but they're going to get rid of that. They'll probably drop the price to maybe get it to $19.99 and take their first party games out, put them in a year later. You know, we've been saying this for a long time. And now you have State of Decay 3 is added with Undead Labs to Ninja Theory with Senua that they're shopping these two.
Yeah.
You know? So,
and then like what happens to Compulsion or what happens to Coalition when it's exclusive, right? You exclusive back on the market, you put an exclusive out when your market share is shit, the whole sort of like mind share of your console is so poor, and then in addition to that, you have Game Pass sales cannibalized. What hope are you giving those studios to have successful game, do really good numbers when you're stacking everything against them? I don't know. I feel bad for the Coalition because I think Gears of War E-Day actually looked important and exciting, but the Xbox themselves is letting team.
Shout out to Slimy Mucus. Is this a typical Xbox Doom Hour, Mooch? Buddy, it was the first half week of the news. Oh my God. It was the first 3 hours of this show was Sony fucked up.
PlayStation dude.
Sony fucked up. Sony fucked up. Slimy's here the whole time too. He has selective hearing. Now he's heard 3 minutes of Microsoft's closing studios. Mooch, what's happening? Oh, Slimy, it's good to have you here. I don't know. Nib, I think it's interesting. DS, anything on this? I mean, the only thing I think that this is alarming. I think the whole acquisition era, I think we're done with that, thank God. Go out there and buy all these companies. Now when gamers hear that any company, anybody, PlayStation, Sony, Microsoft, Tencent, they're going to go buy these companies, that's you're not saving shit. They go in there, they buy the IP, and they close them down. Look at Rare. I mean, where's Rare? Rare needs another game. They got rid of Craig Duncan. Craig Duncan was the heart of Rare. He's gone.
I don't know what their plan is, and I also don't know what they deem as success, what is not a success. There's like no metrics to go by. They don't even put out sales. So it's like, look, what would you class? What would they classify as for successful or not successful? And of course, we have no idea. So it's like we don't even know how much they sell, right? The only thing you go is, oh look, it hit number 2 on MPD. Yeah, that still doesn't tell you how many copies it sold. But it's like it's really, really weird the situation they're in, and I think it's because those like Compulsion and Double Fine, the games were cute, but they probably sold like absolute dog shit. So they're probably like, well, do we really need to keep all these people? Bear in mind, every person in that studio is a wage.
That's
So
right.
It's like, well, if these 50 people are all wages and they're not making money, we get rid of 50 people. That's 50 persons' yearly wages saved, right? And then you can put it elsewhere. So I think it's just clinical Microsoft coming in and going, right, this is the books, this is what this line says, this graph says up here, this graph says down here. Fuck you, you're done. You're done. You're done. And I think a couple of the studios, though, will probably not get sold off or thrown out. It's really tricky and weird the way Xbox is moving right now. It's almost like they're moving more erratically because they have a great showcase.
It's a rudderless ship right now. Like
they
don't know what direction they're going.
And it's like they're changing their mind every other day. They go in a new direction.
Here, listen.
Like,
so shout out to Night of Cypher. Night of Cypher. Here. Pour yourself a drink. The one thing I think that Microsoft is doing right, though, is they see how they were bleeding and hemorrhaging money. And a lot of this, because DS, when you said this, it just made me think of something, because I've been reading a lot of articles on this. And to be honest with you, Microsoft is making a lot of decisions. Some are calling it rash decisions. And I get that. I'm not disputing your opinion on it. But my counter to it is that they have to make these decisions pretty quick. They're looking to take the money from these studios that were not producing and putting them into the games that they know will sell, right? Like the Halos, the Gears, the Forzas.
But the thing is, Mooch, like, it's not fair to those studios. And what I mean by that is you can't tie their hands behind their back, throw an anchor on their feet and drop them off the fucking boat, and then say, sorry, your games didn't do good enough. Because
you're right.
What chance did they have to do well with the Game Pass cannibalization and marketing that they had? They were never going to do it because they didn't give them that support to begin with. At the end of the day, no matter what you produce, like even the indie games from PlayStation that they partnered with Kina and Sifu and things like that, they still really pushed them and promoted them, right? And they did well in the charts and things like that. Some of these games were just like dropped and that's it. Like, no adverts, no nothing, no marketing, no banners, and then in addition to that, if you did want to try them, you could just the 25 plus million people on Game Pass could just try them out. So what hope did they have of selling? I just don't know. I just think it's also
you're saying
a bit short-sighted.
Yes, they put them in a bad situation.
They're doing things in the wrong order. What they needed to do was, okay, Game Pass is clearly responsible for a lot of this. Let's rework this first. Then let's see what chance these studios have, right? Like when we don't have this cannibalization, what can they produce? What can they achieve? And what is the market response? But they're doing it the other way around. They're already culling it before they've even fixed the issue that caused the problems in the first place, right? It's just I feel bad. And I also have anger and resentment, I have to say. And it sounds weird to say that, but to all these fucking blazers and influencers who pushed acquisition so hard, and they were like, it's job security, it's so good for the employees, like, shut the fuck up, dude. Do you know how many studios PlayStation and Xbox has closed? Like, what made you think this was going to be
Microsoft? They're with Microsoft now. They're in good hands.
Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. Like, it's just crazy. So frustrating, because we talk in like this weird, like, it's good for conversation, right, on fucking some podcasts, but this is such a massive human cost. These people have jobs and lives and children and mortgages and all this other shit, and this nonsense now has plagued them and has affected their life permanently.
Yeah. Shout out to the deceiver 40K. He doesn't like how you're talking bad about Game Pass. He's like, consumer-friendly Game Pass, bad. This is the same guy that was like, I want physical media when we were talking about Sony. He's a big Game Pass fan. All right, thanks, Deceiver. So yeah, I know you're saying that, Nib, and I agree with you. I think
Mooch, what did you delete? What message did you delete?
Oh, he's the guy doesn't understand. The other guy's the night site for the. Well, I was trying to make the reference to the Series S and how Microsoft was using that as kind of like they're. Remember, you said they want to find out right now, Nib. Right? You said they want to figure out. PlayStation wants to see.
Yeah.
Feel the room with what they did.
Mm-hmm.
You said that. So that's what I said. The Series S. That I thought was Microsoft's way of feeling the room for digital.
100%, yeah.
Right. Well, he's this guy.
As in, do consumers do they value?
He didn't
high
like
value proposition more, or
right, and he didn't like that,
power.
because now he's like, Mooch said. All right, so I was like, enough. He's just repeating the same thing over and over again. Like, if you want to have a good conversation, have a good conversation. But if you're just going to repeat the same thing over and over again, it doesn't make any sense. I think that's the thing, though, Nib. I think the one thing that Microsoft's doing, it's hard today. What they're doing now, Asha, I think is making up for a lot of bad time. So I think she's actually doing things that we may not like, but they maybe have to be done from the business standpoint. I agree with you. A lot of things that are coming out now, and we'll find out more if these teams are let go. They start to talk a little bit more. Is that these teams were told, hey, just make quick games, make whatever, throw it out there. Is that what you meant, Nib, when you said their hands were tied and you threw them off a boat and you're like,
I meant also that if you do make a quirky game that has, let's just say, Hi-Fi Rush, right? It was awarded and everything, but it was shadow dropped, and then not only did it not have the proper marketing exposure and build up, but it also was on Game Pass. So anyone, as in they needed a certain amount of revenue, right, to sustain that game. But why would they gain any revenue if it's on Game Pass? No one needs to buy it anyway. It's a kind of enthusiast core game, right? But the enthusiast core gamers on Xbox already have Game Pass, so they don't have as much compulsion to buy that game. Whereas if there was no Game Pass or was no day, then probably a few 100,000 people at least, or maybe even a few million, I don't know, would have purchased the game, and maybe that would have kept the studio, that would have kept the studio in check. But instead, because of this other metric that they're following, it didn't sell, nor did it grow Game Pass. So they landed them in no man's land and just ended up killing the studio. Well, at least they got bought or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, how are these games going to make revenue when the most viable way to make money selling traditional copies of games is not possible because of Game Pass? But at the same time, Game Pass is stagnating, so none of these games is even growing Game Pass.
Right, but
it's a catch-22.
Nib, remember though, when the teams like Compulsion and Ninja Theory and Double Fine, especially those, that was before ZeniMax and that was before ABK. They thought, I believe, Nib, they thought they were going to get 50, 75, 100 million subscribers. So
yeah, they did.
So to just play, in Microsoft's favor here in the conversation, you're right, but you're playing Monday morning quarterback. That's today. You're saying, how are they ever expecting to do that when they're not selling these games Game Pass, and Game Pass is stagnant? That's today. When they first announced Compulsion, Ninja Theory, and Double Fine at that one E3, I believe, they legitimately were like, I think they thought they were just going to take off. Like, everybody's going to pay $9.99 a month. Like, everyone was doing it back then too. So that was an easy, but it didn't work. And it's what we've been saying on the show for 5 years plus. It's just you consume games differently. Games is a different type of media. You can't, like, people will put on Netflix right in the kitchen and start cooking and watch their favorite sitcom. And if they miss something, they'll go back and watch it, or they don't care. Gaming, your hands, eye coordination, everything. You're full attention. And like you said, some games are 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, 80 hours, right? What good is 200 games in a library that you're paying $23 a month for right now, and you're only able to play, you're playing one every 2 months if it's an 80, 100-hour game? You work, like you say.
And casuals literally only buy 2-3 games, and they're the same games.
Right.
Call of Duty, FIFA, etc. Why would they spend $200-300 a year to play random diversity of games when they already only play these handful of casual games. It's weird because, like, how is it that armchair stupid ass fucking analysts like us or whatever, these in gaming enthusiasts, can foresee and predict that, and these trillion-dollar companies can't, with all their analysts and all their internal teams, and it's just bizarre. And this is not the first time Xbox has done this. Like, I remember Yusuf Mehdi with the Xbox One. He said something like it's going to sell 1 billion. They want to sell 1 billion units because of the TV stuff.
Right?
It's like, how do they so spectacularly miss the mark on actual adoption? Like, what are they feeding these fucking?
Yeah, their numbers were way off with that, you know. And it's funny because, like, you know, shout out to Slimy. Slimy, this isn't about you, Slimy. He says, Mooch, it looks like Asha is getting rid of small indie-looking passion projects that don't sell and only keep their big AAA titles that do sell. Slimy, I'm with you on that, and I get Asha's strategy in that, and I don't even think she's wrong. But these are the same small indie-looking passion project games that a lot of Xbox fans were like throwing out there, like, we have this team and they're making this, and we have this team and they're making that. Those are the games that a lot of people were saying those are fine, but they don't sell Game Pass subscriptions. Heck, they might not even sell independently. Maybe they would, you know? So, I mean, it's one of those situations, Slimy. So I get what you're saying. That's why I said the nib, we don't have to agree with you don't have to like what Asha's doing, but I think she's looking at the numbers and she's kind of making the move she has to make right now. I think they're trying to do would you guys call it goodwill? That they're actually trying to sell them off and give them a home where somebody wants to invest in their IP?
No, that's them trying to get paid and not lose money. Because it's better to get something than nothing.
But the caveat is also that it keeps the studio open.
Yeah, it is, but
that's what I meant.
I don't think they're being charitable. I think they just care about the bottom line.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe I shouldn't have said goodwill. Then you're right. But if I'm working for Ninja Theory right now, and they're shopping me, right? They're shopping the company. And Nib, you go,
you would prefer that to just be sharing.
I would much rather they shop the company. Like, I don't want them to come and lock. I don't want them to lock the door on Monday. So maybe I shouldn't have said charitable for Microsoft, but it definitely helps the developers.
The development morale of folks right now, all these studios. Like, imagine how dreadful it must be knowing that any day may be your last. And you're basically on borrowed time, potentially. Like, it's such a weird thing to develop in that kind of environment.
Oh, that's mind-numbing. How are you creative when you're concerned if you're going to be able to pay the bills the next day? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there are some artists that are in the audience right now that are like, yeah, well, try being any type of artist. That it is difficult when you're making and creating something, but at the same time, you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from. So, you know, that's the thing. So the Xbox closing studios things is it's a depressing tale to tell, but it may be the only thing that the way that they're diverting their money and moving things in a different direction. Do you guys think? Do you think that they're going to try and sell off Xbox? I mean,
well, that's the rumor that they might spin it off. And the way they're talking with it's bigger than Marvel IP and all this, it is kind of language indicative of that, right?
Yes, it definitely is. That's what I mean. But I also think that that's an insane comment to make. I mean, Marvel,
yeah,
right?
Even Call of Duty, they were saying,
even when Marvel,
just weird.
Yeah, even when Marvel made a bad movie, they made it over $1 billion. Like, I don't know. So I think it's in the box office too. I'm talking about. So I mean, you know. So I don't know. Like I say, the Xbox closing studios thing in the news. That's all like preliminary. It's like breaking news. It was coming out. Me and Dessinger were going back and forth earlier today. You know, originally it was saying Obsidian, and then they Jason Schreier retracted it and said he's hearing that Obsidian is not one of the teams that is in danger of closing. He also did say that Obsidian is not. What is it there? Obsidian's not making a Fallout New Vegas style game either. So they're working on something completely different. So that's interesting. I mean, people wanted Fallout like a New Vegas again. I think that would have been pretty cool, but it's nice to see that they're doing maybe another new IP or something like that. That's kind of neat.
But I think, I don't know, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but again, they haven't caused a root of the sales cannibalization, which is Game Pass. But in addition to that, I think they may be putting too many eggs in past IP basket, because it's I don't know necessarily if like Fallout and Elder Scrolls have the sway that they previously did if they don't modernize with times. So I don't know if the IP alone can carry it, because we saw like Fallout 76. I understand it's like a multiplayer type thing and it's not quite the same, but it's kind of indicative of how, as is Starfield, that unless it really is this big ambitious jump, it may not have that same wow factor and mass adoption, right? I don't know if just relying on the laurels of the IP is enough, and it hasn't been for Halo either. You know, the last few releases, it hasn't been years, and I understand like Elder Scrolls is bigger, but I don't know, man. I think they are risking a lot.
No, I hear you. I got a couple of super chats here. One is to you, Nib. So I'll read it. The Great Babor is back. He says, I hope they reverse it, meaning, of course, the PlayStation physical situation that's going on. He said, I hope they reverse it and make physical $100. He says, effing annoying people. Same people, anti-consumer BS, first world whiners. So he said, if they bring them back, Nib, he wants to see make the physical $100. I don't think that's what you meant by more expensive, Nib.
Why is Babora?
It's Babor. I don't know why Babor.
Soul liquor. Like what? Why?
I don't know.
It's a weird thing.
Babor is
because they're making $4 billion profit this fiscal year isn't enough, right? Like, come on, dude. Like, what are you doing here?
Oh God, it's funny. So shout out to Babor. Glassdoor says Xbox is about to have no games. Well, we'll see about that, Glassdoor. Mao is still their success metric, while they are pandering to exclusives too. Deranged strategy and devs are saying they listen to consultants. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much stuff coming out of that's the thing, with the Xbox news. There's just so much of it coming out, and a lot of it is being debunked after it comes out. So who knows, Glassdoor? Jay Hart, he says there's a tweet that 82% of PS5s are physical. I don't know if he means physical games or if he was just joking.
Yeah, he means the disc version of the console makes up the majority of the market share of PS5 sold.
Yes,
I have read something similar, but I can't confirm it, so I didn't.
Yeah. Shout out to Jay Hart. Well, here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're approaching the 4-hour mark here. We are, just to give you guys an exact 3 hours 30 minutes. We were gonna go 2.5, but that's not gonna happen. And we had a great panel tonight. I know a lot of guys had to leave, but listen, I asked these guys to come and do 2 hours. 3, 4, it's a lot. That's basically 2 podcasts. So they come for 1 and they stay for 2. What an outstanding group, though, and I'll call each one of those guys out. Some of these, I know Blaze is here. Shout out to Blaze for popping in. Blaze and I were talking about this situation about last week and what would happen and this and that, and we were talking throughout the week. So Blaze popping in, he saw the show was going, and he said, "Let me get my 2 cents on this." Also, shout out to Blaze 4K and Lazy. We will be doing our Saturday stream is going to be moving to Sunday because of the 4th of July holiday. So on the 5th of July, Sunday, we'll be over on twitch.tv. Come over and follow us. By the way, the Mooch TV, twitch.tv link is right there below the description. Please go over and follow. I see when you do. I appreciate it very, very much. Nib, thank you for being here tonight, buddy. As always, I thought tonight was a lot of fun, man.
Is Blaze still in here, by the way?
He's here, but I don't know if he's here. He is.
Okay, so I've got a question for you, right? Sorry,
yes.
I don't want to long it out, but
that's okay.
This is really interesting to me. I assume you've been doing this podcast thing for a long time.
2014.
Okay, shit, it's a long time, over a decade, right?
Yes.
So you've obviously covered multiple different subjects. Have the topics been as negative and the outlook as negative as in recent podcasts in all those years? And all that time,
it has.
Do you think even doing this now for yourself for over a decade are things more negative than they've ever been now?
I would say now it is more negative now than it was. Although you have to remember when I started, that was when I think it was lopsided because it was a lot of negative news for Xbox. That was right around the DRM. That was right around the TV. So Xbox was getting a lot of this brunt a lot of the time, and PlayStation became like the darling because that was when they were like, you can share games, and they were $100 cheaper, and they had 1080p versus 720p. So there was a lot of that going on, especially in that 2013, 2016. But now it seems to be Now it's like what's the word I'm looking for here? It's double, if not triple. It seems like it's bad Xbox, bad PlayStation, right? Bad Xbox, bad PlayStation. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think any of these two companies are going to look like the savior anymore. You know, like where you had that PlayStation come out and be like, you can share your games and we're $100 cheaper and we didn't put the camera in the box. They did this thing where they tried, you know, they raised to like this praise Sony thing. I don't think Sony gets to that anymore. I don't think Xbox came out this generation, right? They were like a $299 console, right? We have a $999 service with 200, 300 games in it. And from there, it's dwindled down. So
subjectively, you'd say gaming is in a worse place today.
A lot of people say, no, topics and business are one thing, and then saying gaming, meaning when I turn on my Xbox or my PlayStation or my PC, I'm still having fun playing games. Like, I think we have to separate that because people keep saying gaming's in the worst place. If you want to talk about what we're paying for consoles and what we're paying for games,
I agree, 100%,
what they're taking away from us, yes. But if you, when I sit down and play a game, I'm still having joy and enjoying this pastime.
Unbelievable last few years, right?
Yeah,
if I just can say one thing to Corey Massey, I think he might have come in quite late. So I think you need to go back to the beginning of the video and go through the points, because the data points I mentioned, they're all they're from PlayStation themselves and GSD, who is a partner of PlayStation, right? So the physical splits that I gave are not subjective; they are factual. And I also explained why the 78% figure that gets touted for PlayStation is disingenuous. It's misleading because it does not make clear the context that it includes a massive number of digital-only releases and so forth, which skew the figures, right? In addition to that, it's predominantly live service games, which makes the lion's share of revenue and so forth. And sales that constitute the high digital splits. But when you look at the PlayStation first party games in particular and tentpole single player games, the physical splits are very high. In fact, with PlayStation first party games, they sell more physical than digital. Out of 33 games in PlayStation's own data charts, 31 had a substantial physical advantage. Only 2 did not. Those 2 being MLB and Predator, some fucking Predator VR game. All right. So again, I'm not laying personal bias cloud my opinions. I'm speaking directly to the data.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn to understand context and nuance data. Right. It's the same thing I said earlier. Just because live services making the lion's share of money, does that mean we just stop creating single player games? So just because live service games have the lion's share of digital sales, do we just ignore physical sales where it's really popular in other genres?
Nib,
of course not.
Nib, we didn't talk about this, but you just posed a great question. Do you remember it was years back when the boom, maybe it was around 2020 or something like that, when you had the war zones and the Fortnite's absolutely killing it, and people were scared that single player was not going to survive because that's where all the money was going. And then we found out that a lot of multiplayer games came out, live service games, and they failed. And then what did they do? The companies went back to making single player. Maybe they have to get slapped around a little bit to find out that leaving the physical space is a mistake. You know, and you know, so I don't know, but that was, you said that. I wish we brought it up earlier. That was interesting because there was a period of time where people said, "Oh, the games that Sony makes, those single player games, that's old hat. Nobody wants that anymore. I'm playing Apex and I'm playing Fortnite and I'm playing this and I'm playing," and it's like, oh my god, that's where we're going. And now we're back. Look at September. Look at all the single player games coming out. Like it's back. You know, they found out that you can make money on single player games. So sometimes they have to get slapped to figure this out.
If anything, PlayStation is learning very quickly that is their bread and butter, right?
Absolutely.
Like, yes, I understand you make most of your money on live service stuff, but it's the single player temple games that bring people to your ecosystem. Right.
And you made that same
no Last of Us, no Spider-Man, no fucking God of War.
And you
no
made
PlayStation.
that, and you made that point very clear. That's the situation with the physical disc right now. Is that you don't ignore that at this point in time. We'll see. Honestly, who knows? Maybe Eric, the producer, does know somebody over there that knows a little something. He did write that to me too. I generally, like you said, take it with a grain of salt. He even says take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, who knows? I mean, if they change it, listen, Nib, I'll be right next to you. I'll be like, Nib, you got an extra cigar? I'll be like, let's we gotta celebrate. I would like the physical to stay. I've always loved, even when I'm at the mall now, still stop into any mom and pop used game store. I run into those. I run into GameStop just to see what they got. Sometimes they have some great used game sales in there from older like PS4, whatever. I'll pick a few up. Like I love
impulse buys.
Impulse buy, right?
Like,
and I like that it keeps another store open in the mall. Going into the mall. Shout out to Jack Movejohnny. He said this. He was like, he goes, I'm in the mall. It's like depressing. I said that like a couple of months ago. I'm walking through the malls. Malls they're kind of dying. So I don't want to see GameStops. I don't want to see mom and pop game stores close. I want them to thrive. So as much as I said I'm prepared for the future mentally, it doesn't mean that I want to lose physical. I don't. I grew up in the physical era. I don't want to lose that. But I'm also looking at what the writing is on the wall, and I'm like, okay, even if they reverse it, how long will they reverse it for? Do we have another? Sony? Are you giving? Let's say they reverse it tomorrow. Do we have 5 years? Are we getting 6 years? 10 years? 2 years? What am I getting? So a reversal is fine, but I want a reversal with we plan to indefinitely support physical content. That's what I want to hear. So hopefully we see something like that in the next 24 to 48 hours. It won't be long, Nib. I don't think it'll be next Thursday. It'll have to be before next Thursday with all this backlash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking now. I'm just on PlayStation and Sony. They haven't made any other tweets or anything since then.
Maybe
they haven't uploaded a trailer on their YouTube or anything. So they've actually just gone completely dark. So I'm curious to see what they do next.
Yes. So shout out to Death Singer. Death Singer had to go, but shout out to DS. DS has always got the chat all riled up. So hold on, there's DS right. Me say DS right, like I gotta get the hell out of here. It's late as hell. Shout out to DS. Shout out to the wise old gamer who had to leave. Wise is great. Shout out to Brap. Brap's with us back next week. July 9th is the big Brap return. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. You guys know him as Coach. Shout out to Death Singer again. Mr. Badbit couldn't make it tonight. I'll reach out to Mr. Badbit again tomorrow. We'll see how he's doing. J-Dub City, shout out to J-Dub. Go over and see J-Dub on X. You will not be disappointed or bored. He's fantastic over there and his YouTube channel. Shout out to Boom Boom Kaboom, Noof Nukem. Noof was here. We'll see if we get Noof back in a few weeks. And shout out to the great Slow-Mo Backslap. It was great having him here as well. All these folks were great. And let's not forget the great Blaze 4K. And if you guys are wanting more Blaze 4K, go over and check him out on his YouTube channel and also over on twitch.tv Blaze 4K over there as well. We'll be streaming on Sunday morning. Nib, always great to have you here as well, Nib. And I'll be honest with you, Nib, I hesitate to tell people to follow you, but I'll let you make that decision, buddy.
I've been getting a lot of followers lately, and I don't actually want more followers. But I will say it anyway. Like, if you want to have a conversation, good conversation with data and with actual, then fine, follow me. It's Nib95, so NIB95_.
You guys are all fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting one, Mooch.
It has, and I mean, this is one of those topics where I enjoy talking about it because, like I said, there is no right or wrong. There's absolutely no right or wrong. Shout out to Mary Wilcox, by the way. Mary, let's just say a quick prayer here. I hope everything is okay with your mom. I hope she recovers and beats the situation that she's in. But you get a chance to hang out with her tomorrow. And like I say, enjoy every day. Every day is blessed.
I don't know who Mary is, but Mary, I wish you and your family the best.
Yes. Prayers out to Mary and her family. Mary, thanks for being here every week, too. That means the world to me.
Which I will say, yes. For all the people who call me a friggin' pony, right? They say I defend PlayStation any year. Look how hard I've gone in on Sony on this, on Blue Point. You got to understand.
It doesn't matter,
Nib. Celebrate it. It doesn't, yeah.
You know what I mean, Nib? It doesn't matter. You could come out and wear, PlayStation is your enemy, and they still would be like, Nib's sold.
Yeah. But I want to say to those people, right, to the fanboys who think like that, this is what you should want out of your favorite influencers for your favorite platform. If they're not carrying the same energy and they're not as hypercritical of the negative things that take place, or they don't have as balanced a take, then you're following the wrong people. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you don't want someone who's just a yes man who's going to agree with every single thing that a platform does, especially when a platform is just all about making money.
And that, and I'm glad you said that, Nib, because it is the truth of that, to be really honest with you, because everything is getting more costly. And the more that this becomes costly, even the casual gamer that buys 1 or 2 games, let's stop saying 1 or 2, they're going to buy 1, or they're going to wait 4 or 5 years into a generation to get a console, which normally would mean you'd get it cheaper unless it's this generation somehow.
Blaze said something earlier, and I was just like, holy shit, I didn't think of that. If they don't reverse this physical thing, right, say I do get a PS6, my PS5 Pro is already like worth its weight in gold, and now I have to spend another $1,000 on a PS6 if I want to keep all these physical games. Like, what the hell?
I don't know about you guys. A little for you guys, for the 236 of you that stayed here, you're going to get a little Moochonomics right now, and Nib's probably going to do this the minute. You know what I'm ordering tonight? I'm ordering another detachable physical drive.
Yeah. What if it doesn't work with the PS6 though?
No, I don't care. I want to have. You know what those things are going to be worth for people on PS5?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. If it ever dies, gotcha.
No,
gotcha.
I already have them for mine, but like, I'm actually my son's is a physical PS5 base. The original one, the OG PS5, and then I have the 2 Pros. Like that's honest to God, I'm telling you right now. Go if you don't have a physical, get it, because for your PS5, this isn't just about resale or anything like that, Nib. But literally, if you have a PS5 or PS5 Pro with a physical disc attachment, that's going to be worth its weight in gold. If they're not making those.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the disc on mine now, and obviously the hard drive as well. I've updated, so I've got it's 2 GB, and then I believe I have an additional one in it as well. So it literally is worth its weight in gold.
It really is.
If one of those SSDs died, how much is it for 7.5 gigabits a second SSD, 2 terabyte these days? Probably quite a lot of money, right?
It's a
300, 350 quid.
It's a fortune, yes. So guys, go out and get yourself a physical disc drive for your PS5s if you have a digital edition. You heard it here first. Trust me, you'll thank me in 2028. Nib, thank you so much. Blaze is muted, but listen, Blaze will definitely be back with us on Sunday over on twitch.tv. Guys, thanks for an outstanding show. Please, 235 of you here, do me a favor, hit that like button before you leave. Please, I want to see that thing skyrocket over 200 likes. It would really mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all the super chats. We'll see you next Thursday. If you're in the States, happy 4th of July. Go play some games this weekend with your family and friends. We'll see you next Thursday. Peace out. Good night.
Peace out, dude. Have a good one.